Chapter 417 Towards the Seven Profound Valleys. Chapter 417 Towards the Seven Profound Valleys. Chapter 417 Towards the Seven Profound Valleys. Oh, you're hungry? Lin Ming brightly smiled. Hunger meant that she was much better. Qin Xingxuan nodded, a bit embarrassed. She was hungry and she was also thirsty. I'll cook up something delicious for you, I guarantee you'll like it. After Lin Ming spoke, he lit a fire and took out some pots. He had always brought along cooking utensils in his spatial ring. He placed a giant pot on the fire and added water. Then, Lin Ming took out a great piece of bright red meat from his spatial ring and tossed it in the pot. He sprinkled on some salt and spices, and then covered the pot to let it boil. After a quarter of an hour, a delicious mouth-watering fragrance began to drift out. Lin Ming slowly handed Qin Xingxuan a big bowl. The soft and red meat glittered, and the rich soup was a pale red. It looked like a vintage wine, and also extremely tasty. After a sprinkle of diced green onions and a dash of cooking wine, not even an immortal could find anything better. What is this? Qin Xingxuan asked in awe as she looked at delicious-seeming bowl of red and green soup. Lin Ming smiled but didn't say anything. This was food that he had brought back from the divine phoenix mystic realm, and was also the meat from those strange giant crabs. The river underneath the cave was very long, so Lin Ming was impolite and took some time to go hunting for a giant heap of those strange crabs. He had even taken a great amount of the river water. These two things were absolutely the best spiritual food and water. Within the Sky Spill continent, there was nearly no place where something this great could be found. Lin Ming's spatial ring wasn't big enough, but Lei Mubai's was. His low-grade Earthstep spatial ring had over 100 square feet of space inside. So, Lin Ming had packed it full of crab meat. The space inside a spatial ring was a separate dimension. Food placed within would never spoil, and it had an effect of always maintaining freshness. It would be all right even if food was stored within for hundreds of years. After Qin Xingxuan drank the soup, she also had some crab meat. Qin Xingxuan looked surprised. The crab meat was soft and tender, yet full of strength. The soup was also extremely savory. Not only that, but once the crab meat entered her stomach, it turned into a gentle flow of heat that slowly dissipated, spreading throughout her body and nourishing her true essence, making her feel warm. After drinking and eating this food, she felt completely comfortable. What is this? Is it expensive? When Qin Xingxuan was at the Seven Profound Valleys, she had also eaten spiritual food. Top-quality spiritual food might even cost hundreds of true essence stones. But compared to this crab meat, that spiritual food was nothing. Could the cost of this crab meat be factored by thousands of true essence stones? Lin Ming said, "It's great as long as you eat it. These are all things that I obtained in the divine phoenix mystic realm. They can help you recuperate from your wounds." With 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence as medicine and then supported by the highest quality spirit food to assist in recovery, such an extravagant method of treatment was enough to make up for all the blood essence that Qin Xingxuan had lost. Qin Xingxuan's eyes widened. "Lin Ming, what have you been doing for this last year? What happened to you in the divine phoenix mystic realm that you had to stay away for such a long time? It's a long story. Wait for me and I'll tell you slowly." "That's right. How well have you practiced the true primal chaos formula that I gave you?" Qin Xingxuan said, "I've only practiced the first layer to the large success stage. I encountered many questions. The Jade Slip explanations aren't too clear." The true primal chaos formula Jade Slip that Qin Xingxuan had was recorded by Lin Ming and given to her. It was not a simple or easy task to record a cultivation method onto a Jade Slip. There were many mysterious and profound principles involved. If one wished to engrave a cultivation method onto a Jade Slip, they had to be incomparably proficient at it. At least, they should have almost reached perfection. Someone who didn't completely understand the true primal chaos formula wouldn't be able to engrave it onto a Jade Slip, but even if they were given a complete copy of the true primal chaos formula, it would be impossible for them to duplicate it. It was just like a person who didn't understand how to carve seals. If someone were to place a seal in front of them and told them to copy it, they wouldn't be able to create a seal that was entirely alike. This was also the reason that cultivation method jade slips were so rare and precious. Lin Ming himself had only practiced the true primal chaos formula to largest success of the third layer. This led to there being many ambiguities and omissions in the jade slip that he created. This was also the reason that Qin Xingxuan found it difficult to proceed, with problems everywhere she looked. Not just that, but more importantly, Qin Xingxuan didn't have the memories of the realm of the God's Supreme Elder within her mind and the cultivation experience that came with it. Thus, even with her 6th grade talent, her cultivation speed was very slow. Lin Ming sighed. Qin Xingxuan had now reached the pulse condensation period. If she wanted to complete the true primal chaos formula and then subsequently practice the chaotic virtues combat meridians and walk down the road of tempering marrow, that would simply be too difficult. So, she might as well start practicing the Vermilion Bird Forbidden Divine Chronicle. 10 drops of Vermilion Bird blood essence was enough for Qin Xingxuan to cultivate the hardest and most difficult core sections of the Vermilion Bird Forbidden Divine Chronicle. In fact, it was highly possible that she would even be able to practice the additional 3 layers of the Vermilion Bird Forbidden Divine Chronicle that he had obtained from the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm. Thinking this, Lin Ming asked her, "Xingxuan, are you willing to join Divine Phoenix Island?" Qin Xingxuan was stunned by this question. Then, her eyes shined. "Join Divine Phoenix Island? Can I?" Divine Phoenix Island was a top 4th grade sect. With her 6th grade talent, she was a once-in-a-generation talent within Sky Fortune Kingdom. Within the 7 profound valleys, her talent was also good. But if she were placed in Divine Phoenix Island, her talent was only ordinary. For instance, Mu Qianyu and Mu Bingyun were both superior 7th grade talents. As for Qin Xingxuan, she was only a medium 6th grade. Within Divine Phoenix Islands, most of the maids there were at least inferior 6th grade talents. Of course, Qin Xingxuan also desired to join Divine Phoenix Island. In terms of cultivation resources, the difference between the 7 profound valleys and Divine Phoenix Island was like night and day. And the most important factor was that Lin Ming was also at Divine Phoenix Island. If she could go to Divine Phoenix Island, that meant she could be closer to Lin Ming. Lin Ming smiled. "If you are willing, then of course you can. This time I'll take you to Divine Phoenix Island. There is no longer any need for you to stay at the 7 profound valleys." The 7 profound valleys was a very complex environment. Lin Ming had far more enemies than friends. If Qin Xingxuan stayed there, Lin Ming would not be able to pass his days in peace. That evening, Lin Ming lay down next to Qin Xingxuan. They kept their clothes on, and held hands. Lin Ming happily reiterated his experience this past year to Qin Xingxuan. The conversation of these two continued throughout the entire night, as they gazed into each other's eyes. Without either of them sleeping, they were still speaking until the dawn arrived. Next day, early in the morning, Lin Ming took Xingxuan's hand and led her out of the cave. In the distance, they could hear the faint sounds of zithers playing. This was Qin Zia and Qin Yarrow discussing zither music theory. As Qin Yarrow saw Qin Xingxuan leave the cave, she let out a breath of relief. Although she already realized that nothing would happen to Qin Xingxuan, it wasn't until she saw her friend truly awaken that her heart rose back up from her stomach. "Junior apprentice Sister Qin, you've awoken." Qin Yarrow grasped Qin Xingxuan's hands, a cheerful smile on her face. Qin Xingxuan's face unconsciously flushed red, as if she had been caught doing something naughty. Towards Qin Xingxuan, Qin Yarrow felt a bit of sisterly envy. Lin Ming had flown hundreds of thousands of miles non-stop in order to rescue Qin Xingxuan. What girl didn't dream that the one they loved would rescue them in such a daring manner, a dashing knight that radiating a glorious momentum? Not just that, but Lin Ming was extremely handsome, and his future was limitless. Originally, Qin Yarrow didn't envy Qin Xingxuan, there simply wasn't anything to be envious of. But now she did. The 2 bottles of pills that Lin Ming had given her were enough for her to step into the Xiantian realm. As for whatever he could give Qin Xingxuan, it was surely enough for her to step into the Revolve Core realm. The Revolving Core realm. It was also the realm of the highest elder. One would also have 500 to 600 years of life. Thinking this, Qin Yarrow sighed. Her junior apprentice Sister Qin was really lucky. At this moment, A flame suddenly lit in front of Qin Zia. This was a sound-transmitting talisman. As Qin Zia heard the message from the sound-transmitting talisman, he frowned, and then he sneered. Millimeter? What's going on? Qin Zia said, it is a 7 profound command to summon me back. Ouyang Boyon has accused me of being derelict in my duties and defying military orders, saying that not only did I secretly leave Star Coconut Island which was under my supervision, but also that I injured his disciple and stole away the sea map. This time, Ouyang Boyon is preparing to impeach me in front of the Council of Elders. Lin Ming smiled, but his smile was very cold. It contained a thick, deadly, murderous intent. Well, since that's the case, Martial House Master Qin, let us return to the sect. I'll go back together with you and have a look at just how they will impeach you. Chapter 418 7 Profound Valleys Banquet. Chapter 418 7 Profound Valleys Banquet. Chapter 418 7 Profound Valleys Banquet. You will go to the 7 Profound Valleys? Now! Qin Zia was startled. In his view, Lin Ming was truly formidable, and was even stronger than him. But if he went to the 7 Profound Valleys, there were countless Yantian realm masters scattered around like clouds, and even extreme Yantian masters. Ouyang Boyon was himself already strong, but no matter how fierce Lin Ming was, how could he possibly do anything to Ouyang Boyon within the 7 Profound Valleys? At best, when Lin Ming went there, anything he tried would come to nothing. Yes, I'm going to go now. Lin Ming's voice trembled with a light note of killing intent. The surrounding temperature seemed to drop by several degrees. Lin Ming, don't be so rash. Think about this. Qin Xingxuan was afraid that Lin Ming would lose and that something would happen to him. It had to be known that within the complex and layered forces that existed within the 7 Profound Valleys, the Ouyang family clan was one of the greatest and most notorious. Ouyang Boyon was an important character of the Ouyang family clan, and his network covered the entire 7 Profound Valleys. A strong dragon shouldn't press local snakes. If he faced off against Ouyang Boyon within the 7 Profound Valleys, it would be easy for him to suffer a loss. Lin Ming, how about this? Let's go to Divine Phoenix Island first and see if we can use Divine Phoenix Island to pressure the 7 Profound Valleys. No need. I will solve this matter by myself. Now, let's go. This, all right. Qin Zia glanced at Lin Ming's killing intent and nodded. When the time comes, try to negotiate as much as possible. I'm sure the 7 Profound Valleys would convene the Council of Elders. Qin Zia thought that the 7 Profound Valleys would punish Ouyang Boyon themselves. If this happened, they wouldn't have to draw in Divine Phoenix Island. But Qin Xingxuan was full of worries. Qin Zia said, it's all right. Lin Ming shouldn't be able to accomplish anything on this trip. But no matter how courageous the 7 Profound Valleys is, they wouldn't dare to lay their hands on him. Qin Xingxuan bit her lips then nodded. She whispered, Lin Ming, be careful, all right? Qin Zia paused and then said to Lin Ming, let's look for a safe place first and settle Miss Qin down. Afterwards you and I can go to the 7 Profound Valleys together. Lin Ming shook his head. He said, war is erupting in all lands and directions, there is no safe place in the South Sea. Even if it was an isolated island in the middle of nowhere, I wouldn't feel relieved. Xingxuan, it's best if you travel with me. Let us go to the 7 Profound Valleys together. This, Qin Zia was a bit worried, Lin Ming. When the time comes, there are bound to be some battles that occur. If there is some accident, Miss Qin might be harmed. Lin Ming's expression went cold. If there is anyone who dares to harm Xingxuan, I will exterminate the entire 7 Profound Valleys. As these words came out, the murderous intent that had been hiding within Lin Ming began to overflow once again. Qin Zia suddenly felt his back go cold, and he realized that Lin Ming was not joking. He prayed that when the time came, they would be able to peacefully settle matters. That is, well, let's not tarry any longer. We'll go now. The 7 Profound Valleys, Acacia Faction. A light mountain fog hung at the bottom of a vast lake. On top of the lake, there were a number of man-made islands. From far away, it looked like these islands were connected together by strings of shining pearls. Today, the Acacia Faction was very lively and festive. Within the sect, they were holding a grand banquet. There were 3 celebrations happening at the same time. The first was that the Acacia faction great elder Ouyang Guang was taking a concubine. Second was that the Acacia faction's chief disciple Ouyang Ming had made a breakthrough to the Hutian realm. And third, the faction elder Ouyang Boyon, who had been stranded at the peak of the early Xiantian realm for dozens of years, had finally made his breakthrough to the middle Xiantian realm. Of these 3 happy events, the most important 2 events were the celebrations of breakthroughs in cultivation. As for Ouyang Guang taking a concubine, that was an event worth celebrating, but to Acacia faction elders who had groups of wives and concubines, it wasn't that great a deal. It was just that he was joining in with the rest and having a little celebration himself. As for Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Boyon making a breakthrough in their cultivation, this would greatly strengthen and consolidate the Ouyang family clan status within the 7 profound valleys. These years, the top master of the 7 profound valleys had mainly been the Jiang family clan. But they couldn't keep up with the Ouyang family clan's flourishing descendants. The elders had groups of wives and concubines, and many more girls that they played with. The larger their foundation of descendants, the more talents they could produce. Under such a situation, the Ouyang family clan's population was several times that of the Jiang family clan. They had already nearly equaled them in power. On the main island of the lake, there were 7 distinguished and broad stone bridges that connected to the other islands. These bridges were made of iridescent white marble, and were 50 feet wide. It was enough to allow 2 large carriages to pass by each other with room to spare. It was quite spacious. As this time, on these white marble bridges, there was a steady stream of people walking back and forth. Most of these people were from martial cultivation families, or were top figures of small sects. "Ha ha, Brother Boyon, congratulations." A man with a long face greeted Ouyang Boyon as he saw him, cupping his fists together across his chest. "You as well." Ouyang Boyon laughed in return. At this time, he was flushed with success and filled with elation. At this time, he had broken through to the middle Xiantian realm, Lin Ming had died, and his great blood grudge had been resolved. His thoughts flowed freely, and his heart was at ease. The true essence that had been blocked within him had finally connected, and he had made a successful breakthrough. Also, there was another event that caused Ouyang Boyon to feel very happy. And that was that Qin Zia, the man that had kept obstructing him, had finally gone stupid and did something idiotic, injuring the disciple that he had sent to monitor him at Star Coconut Island. Not only that, but he had then swept away the sea chart and left without authorization from the sect. The 7 profound valleys had very strict rules. In times of war, they were even stricter. This time, Qin Zia would not be able to emerge from this even unscathed. It was just a pity that Ouyang Boyon still hadn't been able to make Qin Xingxuan submit to him and serve him. Although Ouyang Boyon was an elder, the most he could do was pressure her using his influence and a military command. As for forcefully ravaging her, she was still a 7 profound valleys disciple, so that was impossible. This caused Ouyang Boyon to feel some regret. Otherwise, if he was able to possess and thoroughly enjoy the woman that Lin Ming had loved before his death, then that would be the greatest and most carefree dream that would make his mind flow even more freely. Elder Ouyang, congratulations. To reach the middle Xiantian realm before 160 years of age, it's not impossible for you to step into the extreme Xiantian realm in the future. A long-bearded Daoist priest smiled in congratulations as he flicked his whisk around. This long-bearded Daoist priest was the master of a second-grade Daoist temple. The 7 profound territory had many small second-grade powers within it. They were not part of the 7 profound valleys, but still maintained a good relationship with them. Sometimes they would pay tribute with some top-quality goods, and thus the 7 profound valleys would tacitly allow their continued existence. So it's Temple Master Qin, please, enjoy yourself. The atmosphere of the event was very happy and festive. As one of the main hosts of honor of this event, Ouyang Boyon had to smile even when greeting these leaders of second-grade sects. He had fully stepped into the middle Xiantian realm, and had now officially joined the ranks of masters within the 7 profound valleys. Ouyang Boyon was only 150 to 160 years old, he still had much room to rise. After several more decades, It wouldn't be surprising if he reached the late Xiantian realm. And the late Xiantian realm was where the true top-level masters of the 7 profound valleys were. It had to be known that extreme Xiantian masters were exceedingly rare within the 7 profound valleys. Within the entire Ouyang family clan, there was only a single extreme Xiantian master. A grand feast had already been arranged on the islands. The seats around the tables faced the lakes, and the beautiful pavilions shimmered like they were carved from the purest jade. They were crystal clear, high, and absolutely gorgeous. Those that could enter these pavilions were the top characters of second-grade sects, or they might be heads of certain great martial cultivation families. As for the main island, that was mostly reserved for the elders of the 7 profound valleys. Those of lesser status celebrated on the surrounding islands. The entire banquet seating arrangement was organized by a very distinct separation of status. Ouyang Ming naturally sat at the main island. A year later, he was still as handsome and talented as before. It was only that his calm and restrained atmosphere was even more intense than before. As he sat there, he was instantly the focus of everyone present. His every movement caught the attention of the outstanding heroic elites present. Ouyang Ming had stepped into the Hutian realm at only 21 years of age. In the future, there was great hope that he would be able to reach the extreme Xiantian realm. Then, the Ouyang family clan would be able to usher in another golden age of unlimited prosperity. The young men present couldn't help but compare themselves to Ouyang Ming. As for the young women, especially those that came from small family clans or small sects, they all constantly tried to enter the eyes of Ouyang Ming. These girls of common talent all dreamed that Ouyang Ming would fancy them and take them as his concubine. Not only would their status in their family clan or sect dramatically rise, but they would even have the support of the Acacia faction's resources. With that, breaking through to the pulse condensation period would be simple. For these young girls, this temptation was a fatal poison that they couldn't resist. Not to mention that Ouyang Ming had extremely good looks that seemed sculpted from jade. If they gave their bodies to him, they wouldn't consider it a loss. Elder senior apprentice brother, is that Ouyang Ming really so fierce? He's at the early Hutian realm, but he can actually jump ranks to defeat a late Hutian master? Doesn't that mean he is also more formidable than elder senior apprentice brother? In a gazebo near the lake waters, a 20-something youth said in a quiet voice. He was from a small second-grade sect in the 7 profound territory. His elder senior apprentice brother was nearly 30 years old, and his cultivation was at the late Hutian realm. In their small sect, this Hutian realm disciple was their top #1 talent. The elder apprentice brother nodded and said, "This late Hutian realm disciple should be a sect's martial artist. Here, any casual inner court disciple is already far beyond me. Lamentably, I am inferior to Ouyang Ming. I am already 29 years old and Ouyang Ming is only 21. The difference between us is just too great." But, that elder senior apprentice brother changed the topic. Liu Xian from the Fierce Flood sect is not some common nobody. This time, he might have thoughts to show off his skills during this banquet competition and brilliantly shine. Perhaps he might even think of challenging Ouyang Ming. Within the South Sea horizon and the 5-element region, it was normal that a sect would hold a friendly competition during grand banquets. The 7 profound valleys was no exception. This was also a good opportunity for young talents to display their skills. Martial artists at the pulse condensation period and the Hutian realm could go on stage. But, the truth was that most of these second-grade sects' Hutian realm martial artists were nearly 30 years old. They couldn't really be considered as youthful heroic elites. But in order to allow the 7 profound valleys' Hutian realm disciples to show their skills, they had no choice but to go up on stage. In truth, many disciples were still willing to go up. When facing against a 7 profound valleys disciple, losing was no shame, and winning meant great honor. For instance, the Fierce Flood sect's Liu Xian had stumbled into the cave domain of a South Horizon region master that had passed away a long time ago, and had obtained a lucky chance from the legacy he had left behind. Now, he wished for the opportunity to go up on stage in the banquet competition and amaze the world with his display of skills. Over time, important figures of the Acacia faction as well as some elders of the Array faction, Mirage faction, and Refiner faction began to arrive. However, There were very, very few people from the Zither faction and Sword faction. The 7 profound valleys had many internal contradictions. As the saying went, those who walked different paths had to go separate ways. Because of the different cultivation methods that they practiced, those from the Sword faction and Zither faction had very different personalities from those of the Acacia faction. The Acacia faction did not have harmonious relations with these 2 other factions. Since Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Boyon had made a breakthrough, only those elders from the Sword faction and Zither faction that personally had connections with those from the Acacia faction had arrived. There were multiple rounds of drinks, and the celebratory atmosphere had reached a peak. Now, the banquet competition would begin. This was the highlight of the banquet. Many young heroic elites smiled as they went on stage. These geniuses were the greatest talents of their sects. Naturally, they had waves of applause. But at this time, just several hundred miles away from the 7 profound valleys, Lin Ming was standing on Fireshine's back as he flew in the direction of the banquet. He could already see the profound sky mountains from several hundred miles away. To Fireshine, this several hundred-mile distance would only take an incense stick of time to traverse. Chapter 419 Take Your Life. Chapter 419 Take Your Life. Chapter 419 Take Your Life. In the center of the white marble stage, a sword light flashed, and a 7 profound valleys disciple gave a miserable cough as he was sent flying off the stage. Fierce Flood sects Liu Xian, victory. The referee deeply looked into Liu Xian's eyes as he announced the result. Fierce. This Liu Xian has won 3 continuous matches, and he still has strength remaining. The younger generation is really spilling forth with heroic elites. Liu Xian, Yi Tian, Zhong Yang, all are more powerful than the last. But the truly fierce ones are the masters of the 7 profound valleys. The ones that have followed Liu Xian up are the inner court disciples. Although they lost, the difference between them isn't too great. If the 7 profound valleys core disciples or direct disciples enter the stage, then I have no idea what those battles will be like. A disciple sighed. Everyone couldn't help but glance over at Ouyang Ming, and were surprised to see that he had a clear, dreamy expression on his face as if he simply didn't care about these fights that were occurring on stage. Obviously, battles of this level, even those including Liu Xian, simply didn't enter Ouyang Ming's eyes. Those who glanced at him gave birth to an extremely deep and profound feeling. Just how far does the degree of Ouyang Ming's strength reach? Some people couldn't help but ask. I cannot fathom. In short, all I can tell is that he is surpassingly strong. Perhaps he is even stronger than our sect's sovereign. The one who spoke was a disciple from a small sect. His sect's sovereign had already reached the peak Hutian realm. Stronger than your sovereign? Isn't that just too exaggerated? At this time, Ouyang Boyon was sitting atop the main island, watching the stage as the battles progressed and listening to the sounds of gently instruments float to his ear. He had a very enjoyable expression on his face, as if he was taking in all the luxuries of life. He had beautiful women swaying by his sides. These were his concubines and his maids. As these beautiful women weaved around him, it was a truly beautiful sight. Today was the happiest day Ouyang Boyon had ever experienced. Lin Ming had died. Qin Xingxuan would suffer a miserable and painful death. The Qin family and Lin family, both would be destroyed. And soon, Qin Zia would quickly be penalized. All of Ouyang Boyon's thoughts were smooth. Not just that, but during this banquet there was even a second-grade sect that had offered him 12 pure yin girls. These 12 pure yin girls had to have a talent above the 3rd grade and also be below 20 years of age. And most importantly, they also needed to be beautiful, virgin women. The most demanding requirement was their date of birth. It was extremely difficult to collect these 12 girls. Initially, Zhong Guanyu had offered a batch of 12 pure yin girls to Ouyang Dehua for his assistance. And, the final result of this was that Ouyang Dehua had instead lost his own life. 12 pure yin girls were extremely beneficial to one's cultivation of the divine acacia power. Ouyang Boyon had already looked over these 12 young and beautiful girls and he was extremely satisfied by what he saw. Tonight, he would take their virginity and use it to enhance his own cultivation. Thinking of this, Ouyang Boyon's thoughts began to heat up with lust. His mind had already drifted onto the bodies of those 12 beautiful girls. But at this moment, a flame suddenly lit in front of him. It was a sound-transmitting talisman. Ouyang Boyon heard the message from this sound-transmitting talisman and was shocked. Someone from Divine Phoenix is forcing their way into the 7 profound valleys? Ouyang Boyon doubted this for a moment, and then heard the clarion cry of a phoenix. 10 miles away, a massive vermilion bird cut through the skies, leaving a path of flames that burned the heavens. Ouyang Boyon stood up. The vermilion bird was the absolute symbol of Divine Phoenix Island. If one saw a vermilion bird, they would know without a doubt that it was Divine Phoenix Island. But why would someone from Divine Phoenix Island come to the 7 profound valleys? They couldn't be coming to congratulate him, right? Divine Phoenix Island had countless Xiantian masters. To them, Ouyang Boyon, who had just broken through to the middle Xiantian realm, wasn't even worth a fart. So how would they possibly come here to celebrate? Everyone present also saw the massive vermilion bird approaching. No one was allowed to fly over the 7 profound valleys entrance, but no one dared to stop this vermilion bird. Lin Ming flew straight towards the profound sky mountains. There were several small spirit boats that approached him, wishing to inquire about who he was, but they were instantly thrown off by Fireshine. Fireshine's speed was even quicker than a revolving core master. Heavens! Is that a phoenix? A phoenix? I'm not seeing things. It's coming down. It's coming down. Several thousand pairs of eyes were wide as they stared into the sky. Everyone stood. Most of the people present were only from second-grade sects. When could they ever witness the advent of a Saint Beast? They could not distinguish the difference between a phoenix and a vermilion bird. A 100-foot-long wingspan and a body entirely wreathed in roaring flames, strong gales formed a vortex, making it difficult to breathe for everyone below. Fireshine closed its massive wings and looked down on the world with utter impunity as it dropped straight down. Bang! Flames combusted in all directions. Fireshine fell directly onto the middle of the lake island, and the hot streams of fiery wind smashed away all the furniture. Those martial artists with weaker cultivations were even forced back several steps by this strong wind. All of those present were frightened. Fireshine was Mu Yu Huang's vermilion bird. It was a grown vermilion bird. Compared to Mu Qianyu's little flame, it was over double the size. Is that Divine Phoenix Island's envoy? Divine Phoenix Island also sends congratulations to Elder Ouyang. Elder Ouyang's face is truly great. The many disciples of the 7 profound valleys were excitedly speaking amongst themselves. They assumed that the reason Divine Phoenix Island had sent an envoy here was to congratulate Ouyang Boyon. This sounded improbable, but during the last 7 profound valleys total faction martial meeting, Divine Phoenix Island had also sent an envoy to visit. In their limited worldview, it was possible that Divine Phoenix Island would send someone to congratulate Ouyang Boyon for breaking through to the middle Xiantian realm. Of course, Ouyang Boyon never entertained such a fanciful idea. His expression was solemn, and his eyes had already turned onto the several figures that were being carried on the vermilion bird's back. A youth jumped down. In that moment, every single 7 profound valleys disciple fell silent. Several thousand eyes turned their gazes towards this youth, completely stunned. This person wore black clothes, and his long hair was recklessly scattered. He held a deep purplish-red long spear in his hand. His handsome face seemed as if it was hewed by a saber, and his 2 straight eyebrows slanted up. His eyes were deep and profound as if they contained the endless night sky. He only stood there, but yet a giant, invisible wave of pressure rushed out from him like a tide. Even those people hundreds of feet away could clearly feel this aura. It caused them to find it hard to breathe and their hearts to palpitate. At this moment, that youth standing in the center of the square was like a heavenly god of war. Who is that? The second-grade sect disciples began to speak amongst themselves. They had heard Lin Ming's name, but they had never seen Lin Ming before. However, the 7 profound valleys disciples were bewildered. Many of them subconsciously rubbed their eyes, thinking that they were hallucinating. Lin Ming. It was really Lin Ming. He hadn't died. Ouyang Ming's face had completely changed. The calm smile of before had vanished, replaced by a deep awe and reverence that stemmed from the depths of his being. He would never forget the events of a year and a half ago. At the Total Faction Marshal meeting, the early pulse condensation period Lin Ming had completely defeated him. He didn't even have the slightest bit of ability to resist. Now, over a year had passed, and Ouyang Ming had reached the early Hutian realm. He once believed that Lin Ming had died, but never thought that he would stand in front of him here today. Not just that, but his cultivation had risen to the late Hutian realm. In just a year and a half, Lin Ming's cultivation had risen by an entire realm and half. At the beginning, Lin Ming's cultivation was weaker than Ouyang Ming's. But presently, Lin Ming had cast Ouyang Ming far behind. If a early pulse condensation period Lin Ming already had the ability to defeat the peak pulse condensation period Jiang Baoyun, then how terrifying was the current late Hutian realm Lin Ming? Could he have strength equal to the early Xiantian realm? Ouyang Ming only felt his mind tremble. He no longer dared to imagine the possibilities. Ouyang Baoyun's eyes fiercely twitched, his fists tightening and his palms sweating. Lin Ming hadn't died. Why? Why didn't he die? Not only was he alive, but his cultivation had actually reached the late Hutian realm. In just a year and a half, how could this have happened? Ouyang Baoyun screaming in his heart. He hated. He was unwilling. He feared. It was impossible that Lin Ming hadn't discovered what he had done these past months. Perhaps Lin Ming might not be able to threaten him with his current strength, but what about later? If his growth continued at this breakneck speed, then in a year, Lin Ming might even be able to kill him. When that time came, he couldn't count on anyone in the 7 profound valleys raising their head to defend him. Under the suppression of absolute strength, even the 7 profound valleys would not hesitate for a second to sacrifice him. That meant all he could do was escape. If he stayed in the 7 profound valleys, all that awaited him was death. Ouyang Baoyun coldly looked at Lin Ming. He did not do something foolish or useless like apologizing. In the moment that Lin Ming had dropped down, he was able to feel the thick and overwhelming killing intent surging from his body. Ouyang Baoyun knew that Lin Ming had already resolved to kill him. Unfortunately, Lin Ming was far too impulsive. If he had just patiently waited for another year, then he really might have been able to kill him. In that moment, many thoughts flashed through Ouyang Baoyun's heart. He didn't lose his calm. Instead, he stood there steadily like a tree. Elder Ouyang, how have you been since we last met? I hope you've been well. Lin Ming's expression was blank as he spoke. But his voice was like a cold wind that billowed up from the 9th layer of the abyss. The entire atmosphere of the banquet suddenly chilled to sub-zero degrees. Many of those who were from second-grade sects didn't know who this youth was standing before them. But what they could understand was that this person absolutely did not come to congratulate them, but instead to ruin the scene. Who was this? He dared to force his way into the 7 profound valleys. But looking at the Saint Beast, this youth was definitely not common. Perhaps he came from some large family clan or sect. Many of those in the 7 profound territory only knew that the greatest power was the 7 profound valleys. They didn't know the existence of divine Phoenix Island. This wasn't surprising. After all, only those that stood at the top would be exposed to a greater world. Initially, Lin Ming hadn't known of divine Phoenix Island's existence either. Ouyang Baoyun's expression was ugly. He wanted to smile, but eventually stopped trying. You are not here to celebrate with this old man. Lin Ming held his spear down, and lazily traced a full moon on the white marble square. He chuckled, and then slowly and unhurriedly said, "Of course not. I'm here to take your life." With this sentence, the entire audience was shocked. Most of the 7 profound valleys disciples didn't know that Ouyang Baoyun had enmity with Lin Ming. As for those second-grade sect individuals, they didn't even know what Lin Ming looked like, let alone something like that. What? Take Ouyang Baoyun's life? Did I hear wrong? No one was able to understand what was happening. This was the 7 profound valleys domain, and someone dared threaten to take the life of a 7 profound valleys elder. Were these words that a normal person would say? Not just that, but this youth's cultivation was only at the late Hutian realm. Even though his momentum was formidable, just what would he able to do? Even Ouyang Ming, who acknowledged Lin Ming's strength, also felt that Lin Ming was being naive. With so many Acacia faction elders present, How could Lin Ming possibly kill someone in front of them? In fact, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat Ouyang Boyon. Qin Zia forced a smile. Ultimately, it seemed that they couldn't escape this result. Chapter 4:20 Those who block my path will die. Chapter 4:20 Those who block my path will die. Chapter 4:20 Those who block my path will die. Take my life. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Boyon richly laughed. This old man is standing here. I want to see just how you will take my life. Lin Ming sneered, not responding. With a shake of the purple comet spear, arcs of lightning began to flash atop the spearpoint. As Lin Ming took a step at a time towards Ouyang Boyon, his momentum began to increase, solidifying to the limit. How presumptuous. Where do you think you are? At this time, a dragon-bearded man stepped forwards, holding a 9-foot-long staff in his hand. This dragon-bearded man came from a second-grade sect, and his talent was also decent. His cultivation was a half-step into the Xiantian realm. But because of his limited resources, had been trapped at this stage for 10 years and hadn't been able to reach the Xiantian realm. This time he came to request help from Ouyang Boyon. He had prepared a great number of gifts in order to infiltrate into the Acacia faction and cultivate the divine Acacia power, hoping to find an opportunity to break through to the Xiantian realm. Since the dragon-bearded man needed help from Ouyang Boyon, he would naturally raise his head at this time to show his utter loyalty. He simply didn't know who Lin Ming was, nor did he notice the pity in the eyes of Ouyang Ming, who was looking at him from behind. However, the dragon-bearded man was not stupid. Since this youth came here on a phoenix, his strength possibly surpassed even his own. With a wave of his hand, 3 people that were standing behind him jumped forwards. Their cultivations were at the peak Hutian realm. They were all from the same sect. Today, they had all come to submit themselves to the Ouyang family clan. The 4 of us are going to attack him together. Don't hold back, this fellow won't be easy to deal with. The dragon-bearded man said to others with a true essence sound transmission. Okay. The 4 of them had gone through many tribulations together, and already seamlessly understood each other and were able to coordinate well. They had an implicit faith and understanding in each other's strength. If they attacked at the same time, rushing Lin Ming's weak angles from 4 different directions, then it should be impossible for Lin Ming to block from so many attacks at once. Out of my way! Bang! A terrifying air wave of pressure erupted. Lin Ming didn't even bother to move, it was simply the massive momentum that was contained within him suddenly breaking out at once. A savage and violent true essence recklessly shot out, and an incomparably sharp and deadly storm lifted the marble tiles off the floor. Puff! All 4 of them spat out blood as they flew backwards, their bodies smashing into the floor and rolling back dozens of feet like gourds that had been kicked. 2 of them even helplessly fell into the lake. As for Lin Ming, he hadn't even moved at all. The entire audience was petrified. What? He defeated 4 peak Hutian masters with a single move. How is that possible? A move? You think that Lin Ming actually made a move? I didn't even see it. He stood there, not moving at all. He only shouted out of my way, and all those people were sent flying backwards by his aura. A Hutian realm 7 profound valleys disciple said. His strength was better, so he was able to see what had happened much more clearly than these second-grade sect disciple. Lin Ming. The second-grade sect disciples were startled. What? That youth is Lin Ming? Which Lin Ming? Don't speak such stupid nonsense. Naturally, it is the one who became the champion of the last 7 profound valleys total faction martial meeting. That Lin Ming. With this remark, there was a series of gasps within the square and then silence. At this time, no one cared to ask why Lin Ming hadn't died. Instead, they were only baffled by his overwhelming strength. Lin Ming was only 17 years old. 17 years old. Not only was his cultivation at the late Hutian realm, but his strength had reached such an abnormal degree that he was able to send 4 peak Hutian masters and even a half-step Xiantian master flying back, wounded. Now, the competition that these so-called talents had before was simply like little babies slapping each other, nothing but an unsightly event. The second-grade sect martial artists felt like they were living a dream. This was a true top talent. A person like this really existed in this world. The fierce flood sect's Liu Xian watched Lin Ming at the center of the square, his palms oozing sweat. He had grown up under the halo of a genius even since he was a baby, and his character had become naturally arrogant and proud. He believed that after stumbling into the cave mansion of a long-dead mysterious master of the South Horizon region and obtaining a great lucky chance, that he himself would be able to enter the ranks of the top talents. But now, compared to Lin Ming, he was nothing but a joke. He couldn't help but glance over at Ouyang Ming, and saw that his expression was also very perturbed. Although Ouyang Ming hadn't thought that these 4 people would be able to threaten Lin Ming's life, there had still been 4 of them, and they were also skilled in combination attack techniques. At least they should have forced Lin Ming to expend some effort to deal with them. He never imagined that Lin Ming would only give a single shout, and those 4 would be sent flying backward. Lin Ming's talent was even more terrifying than it was a year and a half ago. A chill ran up Ouyang Ming's spine. Lin Ming coldly glanced at everyone present. His voice contained a thick murderous intent as he said, "This is the last and final time I will show mercy. If anyone blocks my path again, then they have walked onto the path of death." All of the 7 profound valleys' elders' complexions completely changed. Most of the elders present were at the early Xiantian realm, and there were even several that had just entered the early Xiantian realm a few years ago. A moment ago, they were able to see everything that had happened clearly. Although that dragon-bearded man and his companions were from a small sect and also had ordinary strength, their cultivations were still at least at the peak Hutian realm. If they were in Lin Ming's position, they wouldn't have been able to win like Lin Ming. Facing the current Lin Ming, this caused them to give birth to the belief that they could not block his way. Lin Ming gripped the purple comet spear, walking forwards a step at a time. On the spear point, the power of thunder and fire flashed out. Ouyang Boyon's complexion sank until it was able to leak water. He finally realized the most important and dreadful truth. That was that Lin Ming had the ability to deal with him. With every step that Lin Ming took forwards, his momentum became increasingly formidable. Ouyang Boyon felt a heavy pressure weigh down on him. The current Lin Ming was like a death god, and he was listening to the sounds of the netherworld slowly approach. "You are dissolute. You really think that no one in my Acacia faction will stop you?" Just now, a drum-like voice sounded out. A white-robed old man flashed and instantly appeared on the square. He was the Acacia faction elder Ouyang Guang, and his cultivation was at the peak of the middle Xiantian realm. This banquet was also a celebration of him taking a concubine. As one of the hosts of this banquet, how could he allow someone to ruin it like this? Lin Ming calmly looked at Ouyang Guang. His voice was bone-chilling as he said, "You want to block my way? What a joke. This is my Acacia faction. It is not a place where you can be so rampant. You really think you are invincible within this world? How about you kill this old man first?" Lin Ming held the purple comet spear horizontally in front of him, and indifferently said, "Those who block my path will die." Lin Ming already didn't have the tiniest bit of a favorable impression towards the Acacia faction. Not to mention the actions of the Acacia faction in the past, just this matter of Ouyang Boyon trying to deal with Qin Xingxuan, how could he have done so and suppressed Qin Zia if not for the help of his connections through the Acacia faction? The Acacia faction was a scourge upon the 7 profound territory. All that the Acacia faction produced were the lowest of scum. Lin Ming was not a bloodthirsty or vicious person, but in dealing with the scum from the Acacia faction, he had no qualms about killing them at all. Truly an arrogant junior, you have no idea what it means to die. With your mere late Hutian realm cultivation you can roll over martial artists at your level, so you think no one in this world can defeat you. Today, this old man will let you experience what a Xiantian master's strength is like. Ouyang Guang gave a loud shout, and true essence erupted from his body. Purple-hued true essence gushed out from his dantian. A Xiantian realm martial artist's dantian contained a cyclone of true essence. Their true essence was much purer and thicker than a Hutian realm martial artist's. A dazzling purple flame instantly condensed into a purple bone lance in Ouyang Guang's hand. From the body of this lance, ghostly cries were emitted. This was the purple flame bone lance of the divine Acacia power. Lin Ming had already seen this move many times. But compared to what he had seen before, the purple bone lance in Ouyang Guang's hand was much thicker and larger. Not just that, but the end was also shaped like a grim and ominous skull. It seemed incomparably fierce. Junior, prepare to die. Ouyang Guang threw out the bone lance in his hands. His target was Lin Ming's stomach. Although he didn't dare to kill Lin Ming, he absolutely wouldn't let him leave unscathed. The ghostly skull lance was fast like lightning. A blurry shadow followed behind it, along with a long tail of purple flames. It cut through the air with the keening wail of ghosts, almost piercing through one's eardrums. Lin Ming's expression was the same, and his eyes were cold. Azure true essence billowed around his body like flames, and one could clearly hear the sound of this incomparably sharp true essence splitting the air. Divine Demon Thunder Soul. Lin Ming thrust out his spear. Thunder howled. A thick arc of purple lightning mixed with a bright blood-red bolt of lightning, twining together and forming a giant, revolving beam of lighting. This beam of lightning collided against the purple flame bone lance. Against ghosts and devils, the power of thunder was absolute suppression. After the divine demon Thunder Soul crashed into the purple flame bone lance, there was only a high-pitched kai-kai-kai sound. The purple flame bone lance was actually like a ball of snow that fell into a blazing furnace. It instantly melted away. The power of thunder didn't diminish in the least. With the sound of rolling thunder, it impacted straight towards Ouyang Guang. Ouyang Guang's eyes widened in surprise and shock. Everyone present was also amazed. Just how was this possible? Everyone already expected that Lin Ming had the strength of a Xiantian realm martial artist. But he shouldn't have been able to so easily break apart Ouyang Guang's killing move. My power of thunder is especially capable at destroying ghosts and devils. Does Elder Ouyang not know even something as basic as this? Lin Ming's voice contained a hint of ridicule. But the attack in his hands didn't slow at all. After the divine demon Thunder Soul was sent out, Lin Ming's spear potential turned, the fallen star flame erupted. 10,000 flames burning world. First thunder, now flames. Lin Ming displayed the might of thunder and fire to the limit. Ouyang Guang paled. He gave a loud shout, and the air around him distorted. The tiles underneath his feet were seared red by heat. He thrust his hands out like he was forming claws. A blood-red light seemed to envelop his entire body. Blood demon claws. With a flash of blood-colored light, a crimson blood claw shot out. This was a martial skill from the 6th layer of the divine acacia power. It contained over 90% of Ouyang Guang's true strength. Lin Ming smiled. The divine acacia power was originally martial arts from the demonic path. In the past, Zhong Guanyu's life-severing dead bone blade, Ouyang Dehua's soul-severing blood skull, Ouyang Zifeng's purple flame bone lance, and even the current Ouyang Guang's blood demon claws, all of them were the same school of martial arts. With each attack, it consumed one's own blood vitality. Thus, those who cultivated these skills had to double cultivate and suck dry the primordial yin energy of women in order to make up for their own lost energy. To use this cultivation method against someone like Lin Ming, well, that could only be considered their bad luck. Blood-extinguishing demon thunder. Within Lin Ming's hand, the light of thunder began to turn, becoming a crimson blood-colored python of electricity. The blood-extinguishing demon thunder was born to suck dry blood essence. Catcher. The crimson python opened its great jaws and directly chomped down on the blood demon claws, instantly swallowing it. What? Ouyang Guang was unable to believe what had happened in front of his own eyes. However, he no longer had time to even feel dismay. The purple flames and thunder had already arrived in front of him. Ouyang Guang took out a long sword and slashed down. Bang! After being weakened twice, the python of lightning was chopped apart by Ouyang Guang's sword. However, the fallen star flame made a solid strike against Ouyang Guang's bodily true essence protection. The fallen star flame had a unique ability to corrode anything it touched. It immediately ripped open dozens of tiny gaps in Ouyang Guang's bodily true essence protection, and the full power of that corrosive flame sunk into Ouyang Guang's meridians. Ouyang Guang immediately shook, paled, and bled from his nose. As the audience saw this, every martial artist fell silent. The peak of the middle Xiantian realm Ouyang Guang had already been injured so heavily after just a few rounds of battle. Chapter 421 Sweeping all away. Chapter 421 Sweeping All Away. Chapter 421 Sweeping All Away. Lin Ming's strength had already exceeded the scope of understanding of every martial artist present. All of the young heroic elites present that thought to display their skills during this banquet competition suddenly realized that compared to Lin Ming, they were no more than little ants crawling around. Lin Ming was younger than them, and the difference in their strength was like the heavens and earth. How could they still live knowing this? At this time in the center of the square, the Acacia faction elder Ouyang Guang was bleeding from his nose, and his face was red all over. Previously he said that he would show Lin Ming just how strong a Xiantian realm master was, but now, in just a few moves, he had been injured to the point of bleeding from his nose. In front of a group of juniors, Ouyang Guang had disgracefully lost. Lin Ming's spear shook, and the purple comet spear was pointed directly towards Ouyang Guang's head. The spear point began to twinkle with lightning. Ouyang Guang's face turned liver-red. This Lin Ming had gone too far. For someone as noble and respected as Ouyang Guang, what he most valued was his face. But now, he was actually being provoked by a junior who was pointing a spear at his face. And on top of that, what was most atrocious was that he couldn't stop Lin Ming. If he tried to attack him again, the result would be the same. This was slapping him on the face. This was simply slapping him again and again and again on the face. Good. Very good. Ouyang Guang trembled with rage. What are you all doing standing around like stunned idiot? Are you planning on letting this rampant boy strut around however he want? At this time, Ouyang Guang no longer cared about what face he had left. He waved his hand, calling all the Acacia faction elders to join together. At this time, the Acacia faction's pride had already been demolished by Lin Ming. If they didn't brace themselves and act together, then maybe their Acacia faction might not even have the face to stay in the Seven Profound territory anymore. There were 5 Acacia faction elders that came to attend this banquet celebration. Besides Ouyang Guang and Ouyang Boyon, the rest of them were at the early Xiantian realm. 4-5 elders to surround and besiege a junior, let alone the Acacia faction disciples. Even the martial artists from other small sects felt their faces burn with shame. Ouyang Ming looked at the scene in the center of the square and felt tense. He could no longer watch this. Send a sound transmission to the sovereign. Have the sovereign leave seclusion, or else our Acacia faction will be demolished by Lin Ming. As Ouyang Ming helplessly spoke, he was already completely numb to Lin Ming. A year and a half ago, he had seen the early pulse condensation period Lin Ming defeat the peak pulse condensation period Jiang Baoyun. Although this was undoubtedly amazing, he could still accept this reality. Just a moment ago, with just a cultivation at the late Hutian realm, he had managed to defeat the middle Xiantian realm Ouyang Guang. This was simply unbelievable. Now, he would resist the combined strength of 5 great elders by himself. Lin Ming, oh Lin Ming, just how much will you rampage until you are willing to give up? Soul-severing blood skull. Within the square, Ouyang Boyon had also joined the battle. With a single move of this soul-severing blood skull, half the square was instantly covered with brilliant purple flames. Behind Ouyang Boyon, 2 newly promoted Acacia faction elders used life-severing bone blades, blocking off all directions that Lin Ming could dodge in. Soon after, Ouyang Guang used the purple flame bone lance once more. The purple flame bone lance and Ouyang Boyon's soul-severing blood skull fused together, creating an overwhelming blood wave that swept down from the sky. This blood wave was monstrous. It was as if the void itself were tearing apart. The 5 elders had gone all out in their attacks. At this moment, they had thrown away any face they had left. For this, they were prepared to make any sacrifice. If they couldn't defeat Lin Ming here, their Acacia faction would never be able to walk out in the light of day. With the 5 Xiantian elders joining their attacks together, an incomparably formidable power was created. The martial artists present could only feel their blood essence swell up, as if their blood itself was being attracted towards the center of the stage and wanted to break out of their bodies. This was an extremely discomforting feeling. Many martial artists couldn't help but conjure up all the true essence of their body to resist the deadly corrosive effect that the aura of this attack was having on their blood and soul. It's too strong. Truly worthy of being a joint attack from 5 great Xiantian elders. If just the aura itself is so strong, how could anyone possibly defend against this? Facing this turbulent attack that was like the raging waves of the sea, Lin Ming's expression sank. Tempering marrow true essence erupted. On the purple comet spear, the divine demon thunder soul and fallen star flame essence madly howled. A series of popping sounds exploded from within Lin Ming's body. Behind Lin Ming, a solid, lifelike phantom of an azure dragon appeared. Flames converged, thunder roared. Berserk true essence erupted like a volcano. Thunder fire annihilation. Bang! Lin Ming thrust out his spear, and a terrifying power of thunder and fire exploded out, echoing in the air. In that instant, it seemed as if the world itself had lost all color. A blinding light obscured the vision of everyone present. In that moment, the thunderous sound left everyone deaf. The power of thunder and fire surged out like a massive tsunami, and the waters of the lake raised into rough waves dozens of feet high, causing all the nearby pavilions to crash down. Every banquet table was overturned. Every nearby martial artist was sent flying back. And some of them who were weaker vomited blood and then crashed onto the floor, unconscious. The competition square was located on the main island, thus, most of the disciples present were from the Acacia faction. That they had to bear the full brunt of this attack was just their bad luck. In comparison, the martial artists from small sects had an insufficient status and were stationed on the nearby islands. They all began to count their lucky stars for being able to avoid this catastrophe. Plop, 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 plop. Dozens of Acacia faction disciples that had been sent flying backwards landed in the lake. The entire island was in a state of absolute chaos. After the blinding flash of light passed, the entire square was in confusion. In the center of the square, there were only 3 individuals left standing. Lin Ming, Ouyang Boyan, and Ouyang Guang. As for the other 3 early Xiantian realm Acacia faction elders, their bodies were lying still on the ground, on the verge of death. With the might of his spear, Lin Ming had struck down 3 great Xiantian elders. As the martial artists that had their bearings saw this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Qin Zia was shocked, and even Qin Xingxuan behind him had the same expression plastered on her face. She knew that her Lin Ming was extremely strong, but she never imagined that it would be to such a terrifying degree. No wonder Lin Ming had dared to single-handedly storm the gates of the 7 Profound Valleys Acacia faction. Lin Ming gripped the purple comet spear, the spear pointed towards the ground. His long hair was blown up by the waves of true essence, recklessly floating in the wind. At this time, his appearance was no different from that of a god of war. As Ouyang Guang faced Lin Ming, he unconsciously took several steps back. His lips trembled, and a deep fear arose from his scattered mind. Was this really strength that a human could possess? At 17 years of age, this Lin Ming had resisted a combined attack from 5 Xiantian elders. Not only that, but 3 of them had been severely injured. Die. Lin Ming didn't intend to give any of them a chance to catch their breath. His feet trod the ground, and he shot forwards, his spear stabbing towards Ouyang Boyan. The normally cold and gloomy-looking Ouyang Boyan now only had an expression of utter fear on his face. He realized that if he was unlucky today, he might really die here. Under the threat of imminent death, Ouyang Boyan punched himself in the chest, forcing out a mouthful of blood and then spraying it on his own treasure sword. The originally blue treasure sword had turned an eerie blood red after absorbing the blood. This was a move from the divine Acacia power that damaged one's cultivation and required the steep price of blood essence to use. Once he used it, it would be difficult to recover the damage to his origin energy, and it would take at least a year to recover. As for his blood essence, that was forever lost. Ouyang Boyan did not have vermilion bird blood essence, nor did he have the secret techniques of Divine Phoenix Island to transplant blood essence. Once he lost blood essence, he would never be able to recover it. After he used a move that cost him a part of his life and cultivation, Ouyang Boyan's expression was fierce and grim. His face was a deep, vivid red, as if he had been possessed by a demon. Ouyang Boyan already hated Lin Ming to the marrow of his bones. He wished to kill him as quickly as possible. Lin Ming, you die here. A sword slashed down. The sword blade became increasingly bright red, as if it were dripping fresh blood. Horrifying screams filled the air. Sword energy howled, and monstrous waves of blood covered the skies. Ca. Ouyang Boyon stabbed out with his sword. The crimson sword formed a crimson storm. The marble tiles under his feet once again shattered, flying into the sky. Wind swirled around the sword, creating a long red line that directly shot towards Lin Ming. Lin Ming sneered. The divine demon steel needle fused into the purple comet spear. Spear and thunder became one, arcs of lightning crazily sizzled. Blood-extinguishing demon thunder. Lin Ming thrust out his spear, and his entire body emitted explosive crackling sounds. The purple comet spear was enveloped in a thick red electric python. It howled as it struck the crimson storm. Hong hong hong! A series of explosions split the air. The crimson storm was constantly being torn apart and shredded by the power of thunder. At the same time, the red electric python also melted. Ouyang Boyon had burned his own blood essence as the price to make this desperate attack, and he was actually able to evenly match with Lin Ming. Millimeter? Lin Ming was a bit surprised. Immediately, he turned his spear and the blood-extinguishing demon thunder instantly shrank into the divine demon steel needle. It found an opening and pierced into the crimson bloodstorm. As Lin Ming and Ouyang Boyon were locked in a desperate struggle, they didn't have much strength left over to do much else. The scarlet bloodstorm that managed to approach Lin Ming was burnt away to nothing by the raging power of the fallen star flame. Meanwhile, the divine demon steel needle had reached Ouyang Boyon's front. As Ouyang Boyon saw a small flash of light, his heart was incomparably shocked. He revolved his protective true essence to the limit, and countless purple flames emerged from his body, covering him. At this point, the purple and red divine demon steel needle mercilessly stabbed into the purple flames. With a small sizzle of electricity, it penetrated through the protective purple flames. In that moment, Ouyang Boyon felt like his spirit had left his body. He could clearly feel the breath of death approaching him. His bodily true essence protection was able to resist for just a moment. Then it was completely burnt away and disappeared by the power of thunder. In this critical moment, Ouyang Boyon yelled out, and reached out a hand to grab the divine demon steel needle. Ah! As Ouyang Boyon stretched out his left hand and grabbed the divine demon steel needle, his left hand was instantly charred black, and the blood and energy within his arm were rapidly absorbed by the divine demon thunder soul through his meridians. In that instant, Ouyang Boyon's left arm had withered down to nothing. Ouyang Boyon's eyes filled with blood. Without hesitation, he sliced off his own left arm. Blood spurted out. Pa! A shriveled arm fell onto the floor like a slab of overly cured bacon. As everyone on the island saw this, they fell into absolute silence. A lost arm. Ouyang Boyon was disabled. A severe wound and a disability were two entirely different concepts. In many cases, to a martial artist, when their arm was cut off it wasn't much different than killing them. Before this, many of those present had subconsciously thought there would be a little bit of drama and a nice play before matters settled. Although Lin Ming would be able to show off his strength, in the end he wouldn't be able to do much to harm Ouyang Boyon. But now, it seemed as if this banquet celebration was about to become a battlefield of spilled blood. Lin Ming coldly sneered. In order to stop his blood essence from leaving his body, Ouyang Boyon had cut off his own arm. These Acacia faction martial artists were truly decisive when it concerned their survival. But how will you defend against my next attack? Lin Ming flexed his fingers. The divine demon steel needle that had forced Ouyang Boyon to cut off his own arm appeared once again. With a flick of his fingers, it rushed towards Ouyang Boyon. At this time, Ouyang Boyon's hair was disheveled. His left arm was gone, and he was charred all over and dripping with blood. As he saw the divine demon steel needle approach in his own eyes once again, his eyes began to glaze over with the color of dying despair. As long as this needle pierced him, he would die. At this moment, a loud shout rolled out like thunder, "Stop!" Chapter 422 Acacia Sovereign Ouyang. Chapter 422 Acacia Sovereign Ouyang. Chapter 422 Acacia Sovereign Ouyang. At this moment, a loud shout rolled out like thunder, "Stop!" Everyone in the square followed the source of the loud voice. 1,000 feet away, they could see a white-clothed man quickly closing in at an extreme speed. Even though he was 1,000 feet away, He was able to cross 100 feet in an instant. All of the Acacia faction disciples were immediately overjoyed. It's the sovereign. The sovereign has come. The Acacia faction's sovereign was Ouyang Shunxiu. His cultivation was at the extreme Xiantian realm. Within all of the Xiantian masters of the 7 profound valleys, his strength was ranked in the top 4. However, Lin Ming didn't care about Ouyang Shunxiu's warning. He still drove the divine demon Thunder Soul towards Ouyang Boyan for the killing blow. Insolence. Ouyang Shunxiu was still a few hundred feet away. It wouldn't be easy for him to stop this divine demon Steel Needle. Go! Ouyang Shunxiu slashed out with his sword, and a red sword energy accurately struck the divine demon Steel Needle. However, this move was too hasty, and it was too far away. Although the divine demon Steel Needle fiercely trembled, a massive power of thunder still fell onto Ouyang Boyan's body like a typhoon. In the blink of an eye, the fragile true essence that protected Ouyang Boyan was torn to shreds. He gave a pitiful scream, and then his body was tossed high into the air. His hair was completely singed off, and he crashed back down like a pheasant that had been shot, his entire body covered in blood. Ouyang Boyan's body twitched, and then he vomited out a large pool of blood. He had already lost a great deal of energy, and now there was almost nothing left. As Ouyang Shunxiu arrived at the square, he saw Ouyang Boyan's pitiful state and his complexion sunk. He had warned in advance, but Lin Ming had still turned a deaf ear and cast down a heavy-handed attack. Pu. Pu. Closely following behind Ouyang Shunxiu were 2 white-clothed men. They were both disciples that Ouyang Shunxiu had received many years ago. They had just broken through to the early Xiantian realm about 10 years ago, and could be considered among the most shallow and weak of elders. As one of them saw Ouyang Boyan's current state, his eyes turned red. He was someone who shared a father and mother with Ouyang Boyan, his blood brother, Ouyang Boxu. He instantly appeared at Ouyang Boyan's side and fed him some life-maintaining pills. As Ouyang Boxu stood up, his eyes were filled with a murderous intent, no different from a raging vicious beast. Lin Ming, I'll kill you. Ouyang Boxu raised his sword and was about to rush forwards when Ouyang Shunxiu coldly snorted and said, "Draw back." Ouyang Boxu immediately paled. He grit his teeth and drew back a single step. But his eyes still flashed with fury and bone-deep loathing as he kept them glued to Lin Ming. "Lin Ming, you've returned." Ouyang Shunxiu indifferently looked at Lin Ming. During the 7 Profound Valleys Total Faction Martial Meeting, Ouyang Shunxiu had once casually met with Lin Ming. He had even invited Lin Ming to join the Acacia faction, but had eventually let it go. "Sovereign Ouyang," Lin Ming said as he faced Ouyang Shunxiu. His expression was the same. Lin Ming did not fear Ouyang Shunxiu. He knew that sooner or later this old man would jump out of the woodworks. He was the only enemy here that he needed to take seriously. Before this old man appeared, Lin Ming was trying to reserve as much strength as he could. He would never have used Thunderfire Annihilation a moment ago if he didn't have to fend off the combined attack of 5 elders. But even though he had used that move, he had only used 30% of its total strength. There was still 70% of the power of thunder and fire left within the heretical godseed, and it was also recovering at a breakneck pace. "Lin Ming, the 7 Profound Valleys has been good to you. You studied at Sky Fortune Kingdom's 7 Profound Martial House, and afterwards you became champion of the Total Faction Martial Meeting. The 7 Profound Valleys even granted you a heaven-opening pill. But you still forced your way into the 7 Profound Valleys and severely wounded and crippled elders of my Acacia faction. Just what is your reasoning behind this?" "Has been good to me." Lin Ming coldly sneered. The 7 Profound Valleys plundered the martial cultivation resources of Sky Fortune Kingdom, making it so that the martial artists of Sky Fortune Kingdom wouldn't have resources available to them. To them, even breaking through to the pulse condensation period is something they can only vainly aspire towards. The 7 Profound Martial Houses are just a form of returning some of the resources that you lot have plundered, and the so-called fostering talents is so that the 7 Profound Valleys can use them for themselves. Is it some form of graciousness? Hardly. A year and a half ago, I was of great value to the 7 Profound Valleys, so the 7 Profound Valleys naturally treated me well. But, after the 7 Profound Valleys heard news of my death, Ouyang Boyon finally decided to take revenge for personal grudges between us. He repeatedly acted and plotted against Qin Xingxuan, the Qin family, Lin family, and everyone else involved with me. Weren't these deeds all done through the connections of your Ouyang family clan? When I left the 7 Profound Valleys, Divine Phoenix Island already paid a high enough price for me. I no longer owe the 7 Profound Valleys anything. The reason that I came here today is to demand that justice be served. Ouyang Boyon must die. Ouyang Shunxiu deeply frowned. He had rushed to the scene, and yet Lin Ming had let out this raving rant in front of him. If he allowed Lin Ming to kill Ouyang Boyon here, then how would he be able to establish himself in the martial arts world? This old man is not clear about what matters you speak of. Ouyang Shunxiu was not lying. As a top figure of the 7 Profound Valleys, he naturally wouldn't concern himself over these minor matters. But he believed that Lin Ming was mostly speaking the truth, and he also had a certain understanding of Ouyang Boyon's character. Someone like him could absolutely do what Lin Ming had described. Even if what you said is true, isn't that young girl behind you Miss Qin? Even if Ouyang Boyon had tried to harm her, she is safe and sound. Yet you actually cut off Ouyang Boyon's arm and severely wounded him, completely wasting away his road of martial art. Haven't you just gone too far? Haha. Lin Ming chuckled. Safe and sound? What a well-said safe and sound. By holding the lives of the Qin family in his hands, Ouyang Boyon forced Qin Xingxuan to go to Blood Demon Island for over a month. When I arrived there, Qin Xingxuan's body had already been exhausted of all the blood essence she had, and her life was at its end. If it wasn't for me using miracle medicine that is sufficient to create several revolving core masters, then she would have already turned to ashes. And that is what you call safe and sound? Lin Ming's words caused the entire audience to gasp in shock. Sufficient miracle medicine to create several revolving core masters? Heavens! If what Lin Ming said was true, then using such amazing medicine that could create several revolving core masters on a pulse condensation period junior was simply a careless waste of heaven's treasure. Ouyang Shunxiu's lips twitched. Even he had distant hopes to one day step into the revolving core realm. But these were only hopes, and were in reality an unachievable dream. In this generation of 7 Profound Valleys elders and sovereigns, only the sword faction sovereign Jiang Wuji had a slim chance to break into the revolving core realm, but it was more likely that he would fail. The one with the greatest hopes of stepping into the revolving core realm was currently the sword faction's chief disciple, Jiang Baoyun. Ouyang Shunxiu couldn't help but ask Ouyang Guang a question through a true essence sound transmission. How strong is Lin Ming? Ouyang Guang thought deeply about this for a moment and then responded, he should be equal to a late Xiantian realm master. Just a moment ago, me, Ouyang Boyon, and 3 other elders collaborated in a joint attack on him, but we were actually defeated in a single move. And that move should also be Lin Ming's final decisive ability. Late Xiantian realm, Ouyang Shunxiu's complexion sank. Ouyang Guang's strength was already at the peak of the middle Xiantian realm. Yet even though 4 other elders had joined forces with him and combined their attacks, they were defeated by Lin Ming's counterattack. Lin Ming's strength had absolutely reached at least the late Xiantian realm, a 17-year-old with strength at the late Xiantian realm. That was simply an unimaginable dream. Within the 7 Profound Valleys, there were nearly 100 Xiantian masters, and over half of them were stranded at the early Xiantian realm. 20 to 30 were at the middle Xiantian realm, and as for those at the late Xiantian realm or extreme Xiantian realm, there were only a mere handful of elders. In fact, there weren't really more late Xiantian realm masters than there were extreme Xiantian masters. The Acacia faction only had 2 vice-sovereigns that had been able to reach the late Xiantian realm. They had gone to participate in the South Sea War and still hadn't returned. Thus, one could see just how rare the late Xiantian realm was. If it were possible, Ouyang Shunxiu wouldn't want to make Lin Ming his enemy. But now he was unable to back down. He had ridden the tiger, and there was no disembarking from this wild ride. If someone were freely allowed to sweep away his Acacia faction at such an important occasion without any punishment, then how could his Acacia faction further establish themselves in the future? Ouyang Shunxiu grit his teeth and said, since that's the case, Ouyang Boyon has already paid a sufficient price. Relinquish this matter and I will no longer pursue it. But, since you forced your way into my Acacia faction's greatest peak and also injured so many elders and disciples, I have no choice but to punish you. Take my 3 moves. If you can take my 3 moves, then regardless of whether you live or die, I will consider everything settled. Relinquish this matter and you will no longer pursue it. Lin Ming's eyebrows rose and then he sneered. I am the one that Ouyang Boyon had tried to deal with. Just what qualifications do you have to say that you will no longer pursue anything at all? Today, I will take Ouyang Boyon's life. As for anyone who tries to stop me, from now on they will only be my mortal enemy. Lin Ming. Ouyang Shunxiu's complexion was extremely ugly. He had already taken a step back and tried to resolve matters. Although he had said regardless of life or death, the truth was that he didn't dare to kill Lin Ming. The most he would do was severely wound him. As long as Lin Ming was just injured, he would be fine after resting up. This matter would be settled, and he would also gain face for being able to resolve matters like this. But, he hadn't expected that Lin Ming would be contemptuous and try to bully others like so. This caused Ouyang Shunxiu to burn with anger. Lin Ming, do you really think that there is no one in my Acacia faction that can stop you? Good. I had originally planned to just give you a light little spanking, but since you insist on being so arrogant and pushing things beyond your limits, then today I will have to personally see whether or not you can take Boyon's life. As Ouyang Shunxiu finished speaking, he took a fierce step forwards. His aura erupted, and waves of roiling blood surged out, overwhelming the world. Whether or it was the elders or disciples, everyone nearby was forced back by this suppressive aura. There were already those that had learned their lesson. The lower-level disciples had already experienced this before, and besides several great elders, all the other disciples launched their fastest movement techniques to flee from the main island to avoid being collateral damage. Even Ouyang Ming was forced back and retreated all the way to the edge of the main island. As for the proud Liu Xian from the fierce flood sect, he naturally couldn't lose face by running. He wanted to stay on the main island, but after looking at the Ouyang Shunxiu's intimidating aura, he grit his teeth and returned to a pavilion that floated on the water. The shockwaves of Lin Ming's Thunderfire Annihilation had already forced him to use every bit of his strength to just barely be able to resist it. Now, in the face of this even higher-level battle, Liu Xian realized that he didn't have the qualifications to stand nearby. Lin Ming, you are far too unruly, not respecting others and acting like you can dominate anyone you cross. Even if you have the backing of Divine Phoenix Island, I will still teach you a lesson. In these 3 moves, I will not hold back. Whether you live or die, that will be the price that you pay. Lin Ming held the spear horizontally in his hands, silent. His eyes were like the stars in the deep night sky, bright and calm. However, at this time Lin Ming was actually feeling the blood boiling within his body. His fighting spirit was brimming over. Extreme Xiantian. Not too long ago, he had believed that those at the extreme Xiantian realm were top masters. Shi Zongtian, Ouyang Shunxiu, Jiang Wuji, which one of these characters weren't gods among men that could shake the entire 7 profound territory with but a single word? A year and a half ago, facing these characters, he could only vainly look up at them. But now, Lin Ming was standing right in front of an extreme Xiantian master, ready to fight. When an ant became a fierce tiger, he would look back on the road he walked and inevitably feel vibrant and ambitious after seeing just how far he had come. In this battle, by exchanging blows with an extreme Xiantian master, I'll be able to find out just what martial arts realm a 65% tempering marrow boundary can bring me to. Chapter 423 Purple Flame Crystal Conversion. Chapter 423 Purple Flame Crystal Conversion. Chapter 423 Purple Flame Crystal Conversion. Ouyang Shunxiu stood in the center of the square, coldly looking at Lin Ming. It was unknown when, but a light black fog began to cover his face, making it difficult for others to see him. In this black fog, there was only a pair of vibrant red eyes that shined through. A cold light continuously flashed out from these eyes, causing anyone who dared to glance at them to feel a deep despairing fear. Ka. Ouyang Shunxiu gripped his fists together, and a purple flame ignited on his hands. This was similar to the purple flame bone lance that Ouyang Guang had used earlier. What is going on? Sovereign Ouyang is not using a sword. On the various lake islands, all the Acacia faction disciples were surprised as they spoke. Those of the Acacia faction used a sword. If a sword user were to use their fists, their power would naturally weaken by a great deal. In conclusion, Ouyang Shunxiu still feared Divine Phoenix Island. Since he clearly knew that he couldn't kill Lin Ming without provoking a calamity upon himself, he might as well not use his sword and only use his fists and sword fingers. Everyone could see this modest and humble act. If he easily defeated Lin Ming without using his sword, he would be able to display his own style and aura as a master. No one would say that he was a senior that was bullying the weak and the young, but instead would say that his strength was vast and fathomless. This was Ouyang Shunxiu's plan. If he were to defeat Lin Ming by creating a big ruckus and using an overwhelming momentum, he would lose face even if he won. On a small island, another Acacia faction disciple blankly stared at the disciple who had just spoken. What do you know? Sovereign Ouyang is going easy on Lin Ming. This is the sovereign's grace. Even in this situation, he is still staying his hand. I can only hope that Lin Ming knows what's good for him and doesn't ignore this kindness, otherwise the sovereign will teach him a harsh lesson. So it's like this. The sovereign is indeed great. All the lower-level disciples couldn't help but compliment and praise the sovereign. Within the entire Acacia faction, there was only a single person who had practiced the divine Acacia power to the limit of the 7th layer. To all the disciples of the Acacia faction, Ouyang Shunxiu was no different than a god. You won't draw your sword? Lin Ming asked with a smile. Ouyang Shunxiu sneered. Although his swordless strength was lacking, his sword fingers were still far more than enough. If Lin Ming thought that he would be able to take matters lightly just because he wasn't using a sword, then he would be sorely mistaken. 10,000 shadow fingers. Ouyang Shunxiu flicked his fingers, and thousands upon thousands of purple beams shot out from his hands like a violent storm of purple rain. Lin Ming's spear shook, and his entire skeleton began to emit crackling noises. He used 30% of his tempering marrow true essence. 10,000 flames burning world. Ho! A raging inferno of fire swept out. A gale of wind swept up Lin Ming's long hair, scattering it in the wind. The fiery conflagration smashed into the purple beams of light, and with explosive ka sounds, the flames and purple lights began to melt together, shattering against each other. Ouyang Shunxiu's sword fingers issued a sharp whistling sound. Lin Ming stood against this strength, and his tempering marrow true essence erupted with 50% force. The might of the spear, irresistible. The sword fingers were suddenly torn apart by the flames. Millimeter? Ouyang Shunxiu frowned. The area where their energies were colliding was becoming increasingly intense. Xiu. An azure true essence that seemed to devour all light shot out. Lin Ming's spear shook, and the phantom of an azure dragon appeared behind him, his spear thrust straight towards Ouyang Shunxiu's chest. Explosions filled the air like rolling thunder. The power of this spear erupted. 10,000 vibrating threads of true essence locked down the void. Ouyang Shunxiu only felt a sudden tightening of the space around him, and a strong oppressive sense as his aura began to distort under this pressure. As Ouyang Shunxiu saw the shining spearpoint stabbing towards his chest, his expression finally changed. He waved his hand, and a deep red light condensed in his hands, gradually manifesting into a 4-foot-long sword. Peng! Ouyang Shunxiu's sword cut down on Lin Ming's spearpoint. When a sword and spear collided, the sword would always be at a disadvantage. Lin Ming's lips panned up in a dark grin, the complete strength of tempering marrow opened. The violent and tempered power of thunder and fire mixed with the complete tempering marrow true essence, exploding like a volcano. Peng! Sword and spear crossed. Ouyang Shunxiu felt as if his sword had cut across a mountain. A chaotic and uncontrollable flux of energy broke into his body, causing his blood to stop. His body suddenly shook, and he was forced to soar backwards and into the air by Lin Ming's unstoppable spear potential. Lin Ming's attack was extremely quick, but Ouyang Shunxiu's retreat had also been extremely quick. To the casual observer, it seemed as if Lin Ming's spear had sent Ouyang Shunxiu flying backward. Lin Ming's spear shot towards Ouyang Shunxiu in the sky. Ouyang Shunxiu's blood-red eyes shot open. Ah! Break for me. Ouyang Shunxiu gave a loud shot, and purple flames broke forth from his entire body. This was the eruption of an extreme Xiantian master's true strength. Under the impact of this strong force, Lin Ming's offensive finally disintegrated. As Lin Ming flew through the air, he finally stopped, his toes pointing towards the ground. Like a feather, he gently floated onto the square, his spear still pointed at Ouyang Shunxiu in the sky. The entire audience fell into silence. All of the Acacia faction disciples that had been speaking so highly of Ouyang Shunxiu shut up. Ouyang Shunxiu had been forced to fly away by a spear. Lin Ming's strength is equal to that of Ouyang Shunxiu? A second-grade sect's elder said, stunned. Although it had seemed like Lin Ming had suppressed Ouyang Shunxiu with his attack, the truth was that Ouyang Shunxiu had taken great care to not use a weapon, and also held back in his attack. Thus, this was the result, and that was why to this second-grade sect elder, it seemed as if Lin Ming's strength was almost equal to that of Ouyang Shunxiu. How could that be possible? Sovereign Ouyang used less than half his strength in that last move. An Acacia faction disciple stubbornly said. In their eyes, Ouyang Shunxiu was an invincible existence. Just wait to see our sovereign use the 7th layer of the divine Acacia power. The world itself will change. This Lin Ming boy won't be able to block it. Humph. Let alone Lin Ming, even if Jiang Wuji came here himself he would still have 3 points of fear. The Acacia faction disciples all held their breath as they spoke. But, the disciples of the smaller sects didn't quite believe this. It was obvious from their eyes that were filled with suspicious. At this time on the square, Lin Ming gave off a feeling like he was an ocean, an unfathomable and inestimable force. Perhaps Ouyang Shunxiu's 7th layer of the divine Acacia power was incomparable in power, but who knew what other secret cards Lin Ming had hidden up his sleeve? Since he had the confidence to force his way into the 7 profound valleys and take Ouyang Boyon's life, his strength might even be beyond this. Ouyang Shunxiu was deeply ashamed. Before, he had only used his sword fingers, but not only was he not able to suppress Lin Ming in the first move, but he was actually forced by Lin Ming to use his sword and even forced to retreat into the air. This boy's strength was at least equal to someone at the top of the late Xiantian realm. It was even possible. As Ouyang Shunxiu thought this, his expression changed. That was simply impossible. A late Hutian realm martial artist could have strength equal to an extreme Xiantian martial artist. He couldn't accept this conclusion. His own cultivation was at the extreme Xiantian realm. If a late Hutian boy were to have the same level of strength as him, then that would simply be too pitiful to bear. He could not accept this. Regardless of how strong Lin Ming was, it was true that when he was fighting Ouyang Guang and his group, he had still been hiding his strength. Ouyang Shunxiu's eyes were brilliant as he stared at Lin Ming. Before, he had said that after 3 moves, he would drop all matters regardless of life or death. But, if he couldn't even manage to harm a single hair on Lin Ming after 3 moves, and was also forced back because of a counterattack, he would completely lose any face he had. This boy. Ouyang Shunxiu's eyes gradually turned ice cold. He extended his long sword and then gave a loud shout. With a whistling sound, Ouyang Shunxiu's long sword suddenly kindled to life with purple flames. A moment later, these purple flames shrank, manifesting into reality and attaching onto the sword. These purple flames turned into a thin layer of purple crystal. This sword had become an amethyst blade. That's the purple flame crystal conversion, an Acacia faction disciple shouted from a small island. The purple flame crystal conversion was a magic technique that was only found within the 7th layer of the divine Acacia power. Once one cultivated the divine Acacia power to the 7th layer, they would have long-lasting youth, and their young essence wouldn't dissipate. Although it was impossible to extend one's life beyond what was allowed by their cultivation, just that fact that their young essence wouldn't fade was already a great temptation for many Acacia faction disciples. Currently, within the entire Acacia faction, only Ouyang Shunxiu had cultivated the divine Acacia power to the peak of the 7th layer. This was also the reason that Ouyang Shunxiu, although he was 300 to 400 years old, still appeared to resemble an attractive middle-aged man. The sovereign used the purple flame crystal conversion from the 7th layer of the divine Acacia power cultivation method. As this amethyst sword appeared, many Acacia faction disciples felt proud and happy. When Ouyang Shunxiu had been pushed back by Lin Ming a moment ago, they had almost fallen into despair. Haha, the sovereign is finally serious. Let's see just how this boy will block the purple flame crystal conversion this time. Once Ouyang Shunxiu used the 7th layer of the divine acacia power, that was his message that he would no longer use a light hand. Lin Ming slightly narrowed his eyes. As he looked at the amethyst sword in Ouyang Shunxiu's hand, he was able to see that the purple flame's dark yin energy had disappeared, and instead turned into pure energy. The highest level of the divine acacia power can force the dark yin energy to return to its natural state. This cultivation method also has a few good points. Lin Ming held the purple cum spear flat, and readied himself to completely invest everything he had in this battle. Before this, he had repeatedly saved his strength, and it was all for this moment. Lin Ming's power was very explosive, but it was simply unable to last for an extended period of time. In the end, his cultivation was simply too insufficient. The true essence in his dantian and tempered marrow combined was still far inferior in thickness to that of an extreme xiantian master. He had to ensure that he would be at his best condition when facing Ouyang Shunxiu. The purple lights gathered from all over towards Ouyang Shunxiu's sword. The entire blade radiated a dazzling purple light, and ghostly cries emitted from it. On Ouyang Shunxiu's body, dozens of purple beams of light shot into the sky. All of these light beams were spurred by Ouyang Shunxiu's sword, and then pierced towards Lin Ming. Sound seemed to disappear. This sword had created a near-perfect potential. This strange sword attack swallowed all sound side, touching upon a faint and elusive concept. What a terrifying sword! This Ouyang Shunxiu has not only cultivated the divine acacia power to the limit, but he also has such a deep and profound understanding into swordsmanship. I wonder just how Lin Ming will defend against this. Within a pavilion on the lake, a martial family head with great eyesight spoke. Facing the full force of Ouyang Shunxiu, Lin Ming's expression was calm as usual. However, the true essence within his body had already been circulating to the limit. In the realms of martial artists, the higher one's cultivation, the greater the disparity in between boundaries. When Lin Ming was at the late pulse condensation period, his strength was comparable to an early xiantian master. However, he was not naive enough to think that after his cultivation had jumped an entire realm, his power was now equal to a revolving core master. Against the full force of Ouyang Shunxiu, Lin Ming did not underestimate him at all. Heretical God Force, open. After experiencing the trials within the divine phoenix mystic realm for nearly an entire year, the power that came from reaching the 2nd layer of the heretical God Force completely erupted. Chapter 424 Horrifyingly Fierce. Chapter 424 Horrifyingly Fierce. Chapter 424 Horrifyingly Fierce. As the heretical God Force was opened, Lin Ming was like a monster that leapt out from an endless abyss. His momentum completely broke free. As Lin Ming gripped the purple comet spear, the ground underneath him began to shake, and cracks began to spread out from where he was like a spiderweb. He flourished his spear, and countless tiles of white marble rolled up like a mat, with countless stones and rocks being sent swirling in a high-speed vortex. If a weaker martial artist were to be touched by these chunks of stone, it would pierce a bloody hole through their body. After the heretical God Force's aura of the 2nd layer erupted, all of the martial artists present, including even the xiantian elders, felt a great suppressive pressure. They had no choice but to revolve their true essence to resist it. Ouyang Shunxiu's amethyst sword cut down. On top of the sword, the amethyst layer had already grown 9 feet long. That 4-foot sword had actually become a 9-foot-long great sword. Break. Ouyang Shunxiu's sword cut out. Catcher. Sword energy and spear light wove as they smashed into each other, creating a cold and terrifying storm of true essence. The true essence tore apart the earth, sending massive crushed stones flying high into the air. Giant waves appeared on the lake as if it were in the middle of a sea storm. Under the force of such a crazily strong impact, Lin Ming's body was blown backwards like a leaf. Puff puff puff. Lin Ming was flung away from the main island and fell on top of the lake. Just as he was about to land, Lin Ming waved his sleeves and a cool breeze surrounded him, supporting his body in the air. Lin Ming slowly settled down, bouncing atop the churning waves before steadying himself. The heavy impact from a moment ago had caused him to pale, and a thin line of blood leaked out from the corners of his lips. His explosive strength was strong, but the difference between their cultivations was just too great. After all, his foundation was weaker. Lin Ming's tempering marrow true essence was fine. It was just that the meridians in his body weren't able to withstand such a vicious impact, and he received a wound. Ouyang Shunxiu was forced dozens of feet away by the true essence shockwaves. When he saw that Lin Ming was injured, he let out a light breath. However, before he had a chance to speak, his pupils suddenly narrowed. A small purple and red flash of light was approaching him. It was only several inches long, but was moving at an incredible speed. The chilling aura that it released was just like a serpent that shot towards Ouyang Shunxiu's chest. Millimeter. Ouyang Shunxiu raised his sword to cut down on it. However, he had just used some of his gathered strength and hadn't recovered enough. With the true essence in his body in chaos, he couldn't make a decent counterattack. That small ray of light struck apart Ouyang Shunxiu's sword, piercing through his chest and causing a fountain of blood rain to gush out. In that moment, Ouyang Shunxiu felt as if all the blood essence within his body was rushing towards that small light. Ouyang Shunxiu's eyes widened. He roared out and then punched himself in the chest. The power of the seventh layer of the divine acacia power manically erupted, and finally forced that small bright light out of his body. Shio! That flash of light became a 3-inch long steel needle. There was the image of a dragon and snake engraved on the needle. It flew back into Lin Ming's hand, submerged into his fingertips, and vanished without sight. Ouyang Shunxiu's chest was stained in blood and his face was pale. His eyes were like a wild beast as he stared at Lin Ming, hatred glowing within them. What a terrifying and strange steel needle. Not only was it able to break through such the powerful storm of true essence, but it wasn't destroyed and still managed to pierce through Ouyang Shunxiu's chest, severely wounding him. It had even carried away a little wisp of blood essence. A martial artist's blood essence was incomparably precious. Although Ouyang Shunxiu had no plans of trying to reach the revolving core stage, he still treasured his own life beyond all else. Blood essence was immediately able to influence one's lifespan. Now that he had lost his blood essence, that also meant that he had lost additional years of life. Ouyang Shunxiu is injured. And heavily so. I can't believe that an extreme Xiantian master was actually injured to this extent by a junior, and even had a portion of his blood essence taken away. The disciples from the distant small islands were spectating this battle with looks of fear and suspicion on their side. To martial artists from a second-grade sect, Ouyang Shunxiu was one of the top controlling characters of the Seven Profound Territory. Although the Seven Profound Territory had a single revolving core old master, it was said that that old monster was nearing the end of his life. There were even some rumors that he had gone into closed-door seclusion to extend his life. With that revolving core master unable to attend to any matters anymore, in the minds of many martial artists, Ouyang Shunxiu and those like him represented the top figures of the Seven Profound Territory. But now, Ouyang Shunxiu was actually wounded by a junior. If he was so fierce at the late Hutian realm, what would happen once he stepped into the Xiantian realm? The present Acacia faction martial artists had long turned silent. They looked unstage towards the bleeding Lin Ming who was soaked in blood, and were able to feel a deep fear coming from their hearts. This was just too horrifyingly fierce. Just what was that steel needle? Before, everyone had seen a small flash of light attack Ouyang Boyan. But there were also those who didn't catch it in time. These people only assumed that it was a concealed needle weapon or even a hidden weapon. There were some martial artists that excelled at hidden weapons or even hidden weapons like needles. There were even some martial artists that used hidden weapons and would engage in sneak attacks. But these sneak attacks weren't some glorious or correct method, and many martial artists despised those who relied on them. Now it seemed as if their guesses were completely different. If this weapon could submerge into a martial artist's body or even fuse together with the martial artist, then there was only one possibility, and that was that this needle was a manifestation of pure energy. What is going on? How could he be so strong? Many of the martial artists present had limited knowledge. They had never seen a thunder soul, And they also didn't know what this divine demon steel needle was. Lin Ming gently stroked the divine demon steel needle. Because it had just absorbed Ouyang Shunxiu's blood essence, the crimson snakes of lightning became bright and more vibrant. This was the terror behind the blood-extinguishing demon thunder. Once it drilled into one's body, no matter what effort was made, it would still equally attract their blood essence. Unless one was able to immediately shake it off, they would permanently lose blood essence. Unfortunately, Ouyang Shunxiu had a very deep cultivation, and it took him an instant to stop the divine demon steel needle. Otherwise, the longer it took, the greater Ouyang Shunxiu's loss would have been. Distantly, Ouyang Shunxiu was glaring at Lin Ming, his eyes thickening with a dreadful killing intent. Lin Ming, I have gone easy on you everywhere I could, and yet you actually damage my blood essence. Gone easy on me? You have? Lin Ming sarcastically asked. Ouyang Shunxiu had continuously used the 7th layer of the divine acacia power. If he hadn't opened the heretical god force, there was no way he would have been able to defend against it. Even so, Lin Ming had relied upon the formidable defensive and recovery power of tempering marrow in order to exchange damage. He calculated that as long as Ouyang Shunxiu still hadn't recovered his strength, he wouldn't be able to make some sort of sneak attack. Otherwise, there was no way that Lin Ming would have managed to emerge with an advantage from the exchange a moment ago. This Lin Ming is far too arrogant. Around the square, the Acacia faction disciples were all clenching their fists. Lin Ming plainly didn't place their Acacia faction in his eyes. Good. Very good. Ouyang Shunxiu began to sizzle with anger. Ho! Purple flames completely wrapped around Ouyang Shunxiu. Suddenly, it wasn't just his sword, but his entire body was wrapped in amethyst crystal. The so-called 3 moves that Ouyang Shunxiu had settled upon earlier had already been completely abandoned. He now only desired to cause severe harm to Lin Ming, otherwise he would never be able to release this hatred that festered in his heart. Die! Ouyang Shunxiu slashed out with his sword. The space around Lin Ming suddenly tightened, collapsing. Lin Ming was calm as usual. The purple comet spear in his hands was like a whip as it fiercely slashed out. Because of its extreme speed, even the spear shaft bent. The spear point cut through the air, causing a sharp howl that pierced the ears. Peng! Spear and sword collided. A strange vibrating power penetrated through the amethyst sword and into Ouyang Shunxiu's body, causing his entire body to shake. This boy has such a strange attack skill. Ouyang Shunxiu was darkly amazed. But, although this power of vibration was strange, he was still barely able to melt it away once it entered his body. The collision of the two became increasingly intense. Spear light and sword energy haphazardly intertwined together. Lin Ming's spear had the concept of wind fused into it, and his spear shadow melted into the wind. The wind itself became his spear, overwhelming and with no gaps. Bang bang bang! The roiling true essence swirled into a giant storm, completely crushing the ground. Within the lake waters around the main island, the strong gales and intense true essence caused massive columns of water to rise into the air. Dozens of columns of water soared into the air, turning into giant waterspouts that hung in the sky, slowly being dragged into the massive storm. All of the surrounding martial artists could only look on in helplessness and awe. Against such a terrifying fight, let alone taking any of these blows, if they just walked a few steps closer, it was likely that they would be shredded to bits by this storm of true essence and immediately die. Blood flame slash. As Ouyang Shunxiu slashed out, the aura of his body suddenly changed. His entire body was enveloped in a bloody fog, and it was as if waves of blood were surging out from him. The intense impact of true essence created a tornado that swept up the countless broken shards of white marble from the floor. Peng peng peng! As this tornado of debris was thrown towards Lin Ming, it was also swept up by the azure true essence that Lin Ming released, continuously exploding in the air and becoming a fine white sand. Lin Ming thrust out his spear. He had to take the offensive and finish this fight in the next few dozen breaths. Otherwise, the power from the heretical god force would soon exhaust itself. You want to exchange wounds? Dream on. The sword in Ouyang Shunxiu's hand suddenly accelerated. His attack speed was significantly faster than Lin Ming's. A sword cut down onto Lin Ming's chest. At this time, because of his lost blood essence, Ouyang Shunxiu had been driven to madness and desperately attacked. Catcher. Spear and sword locked together. Most of Ouyang Shunxiu's sword attack was blocked by Lin Ming. However, most of the sword energy still cut towards Lin Ming, ripping open his clothes, slicing his chest, and causing blood to shoot out. Ouyang Shunxiu's smile didn't even last an instant before it froze on his face. Lin Ming simply ignored this chest injury and cut down with his spear towards Ouyang Shunxiu. What? He's all right. Ouyang Shunxiu hadn't left any room for dodging after making his move. Lin Ming's purple comet spear was like the blade of a guillotine as it came towards him. He was struck by that spear and sent soaring back. Bang! Ouyang Shunxiu crashed into the floor. Within the ruined ground, another crater appeared. His mouth was already full of blood, several of his ribs were broken, and his organs were crushed. His face was pale white and his entire body was damaged all over. This battle was brutal beyond his imagination. All of the current martial artists were stunned silly. Lin Ming had used his own body to forcefully withstand Ouyang Shunxiu's sword energy. And then he had made a counterattack. A single spear had sent Ouyang Shunxiu cratering into the ground. What kind of character was Ouyang Shunxiu? But he had actually been struck by a junior and sent slamming into the ground. A fight of this level was too terrifying. Lin Ming's own situation wasn't too good. He had relied on the powerful defensive capabilities of his 65% completed tempering marrow and withstood Ouyang Shunxiu's sword energy. But his meridians had been damaged in many sections and his chest was already stained red with blood. The heretical god force could only last for about 10 more breaths of time. Seeing Ouyang Shunxiu stand up, Lin Ming fiercely grit his teeth. He shot forwards, and the Thunder Soul and Flame Essence on his spear connected. Thunder Fire Annihilation. Ouyang Shunxiu's 2 eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed his sword with both hands, and all of that amethyst crystal completely manifested onto the blade of the sword. The absolute limit of the Divine Acacia Power's 7th layer of strength transferred to the sword, slashing down at Lin Ming. Bang! In that moment, it was like a bloody sun rose within the center of the square. Ouyang Shunxiu's body was like a piece of broken straw as he was thrown backwards. Chapter 425 Stones Dyed with Blood. Chapter 425 Stones Dyed with Blood. Chapter 425 Stones Dyed with Blood. Bang! Ouyang Shunxiu fell into a pile of rubble, stirring up a large cloud of dust and dirt. As the bright light from the explosion faded, the true essence shockwaves subsided. The lake was quiet, and even the wild, turbulent waves became gentle once again. On the main island, every building was completely razed to the ground, turned to crushed stones and tiles. There was now nothing left but a long stretch of ruins. Pa-ta! A drop of bright fresh blood trickled down from the cold point of the purple comet spear. As this drop of blood fell onto the ruins, it broke apart. In the utter silence of the square, this sound was incomparably clear. Lin Ming stood within these ruins, his entire body dyed in blood. Part of this blood was from Ouyang Shunxiu, and part of it was from himself. At this time, Lin Ming was like a killing god that crawled out from an Ashura battlefield. All of the martial artists that looked at Lin Ming had a shine of fear and horror in their eyes. Even though the extreme Xiantian master Ouyang Shunxiu had emerged to stop Lin Ming, he was still beaten to the edge of death. Ouyang Ming heaved a deep sigh of relief. In the face of someone like Lin Ming, he was completely paralyzed. Even Liu Xian, who had grown up under the halo of being a genius, had a complex expression on his face. He now learned that there was no limit in this world. No matter how strong he was, there was always someone stronger. No one wanted to admit that they were a frog in a well. But now, he had no choice but to acknowledge the world outside of the well. He had discovered that the world outside of this well was much more broad and limitless than he could have ever imagined. Ouyang Shunxiu lay waiting the ruins of the main island, half his body buried within the crushed stone. Ouyang Shunxiu had long fallen unconscious. In comparison to the bloody Lin Ming who stood next to him, this left an extremely strong visual impact on all that saw this. This strong visual impact, as well as the thick and frightening killing intent that still filled the air, caused everyone around to not dare to make even the smallest noise. The entire square had fallen under an oppressive pall of silence. The tyrannical aura seemed thick enough to manifest into reality. Pa-ta, pa-ta. More and more blood dropped onto the ruins. As drop of blood after drop of blood fell down, it formed a blossoming flower of blood atop the crushed stones. Lin Ming's body swayed twice. Peng! The purple comet spear struck the ground. Lin Ming supported himself by grabbing onto the spear shaft, finally coming to a halt. Even though he had consumed too much true essence and he was heavily injured, he still managed to stand firm. He's reached his limit. Ouyang Boxu narrowed his eyes as he stared at Lin Ming, finally relieved. No matter how formidable you are, since you have reached your limit, there is nothing to fear from you. 5 great elders of the Acacia faction combined to attack him, and even Ouyang Shenxiu fought him. It's already a miracle that he could still stand at this point. But there is no longer any need to fear him, Ouyang Guang said to several other elders on the main island with a true essence sound transmission. To everyone present, it was obvious that Lin Ming had reached the end of the road. Lin Ming raised his purple comet spear and began to slowly move towards Ouyang Boyan. On the chilling point of his spear, a cold light flashed. But at this moment, Ouyang Boyan's younger brother Ouyang Boxu was standing in front of him. What? This boy is even trying to kill my brother now? Is his brain filled with water? He is simply seeking death. With his long sword in hand, Ouyang Boxu's eyes flashed with a deep murderous intent. He wished that he could immediately kill Lin Ming. But in this situation, he didn't have the courage to do so. Lin Ming, if you take one step close, I will cut you down with my sword, Ouyang Boxu shouted out with a door expression. His entire body's true essence was revolving to the limit. And beside him, even Ouyang Guang had once again taken out his long sword and was prepared to fight at any given moment. Lin Ming was expressionless as if he hadn't heard anything at all. He continued to slowly walk and stumble towards Ouyang Boyan. The corners of Ouyang Boxu's lips twitched. Ouyang Guang said, "Boxu, us 3 will attack together. Although we can't kill him, we can still severely injure him and ruin his blood essence and meridians. Even if we do so, Divine Phoenix Island won't say anything. After all, Lin Ming was the one who attacked first, and he also injured Boyan and the Sovereign's blood essence. If we damage his blood essence and meridians, then that will be a perfectly justified matter. There is no reason that Divine Phoenix Island would punish us." That's right. At this time Divine Phoenix Island needs our hearts united in order to face the South Sea Demon region. They would not dare to bully us like that, otherwise the already loose alliance will disperse and Divine Phoenix Island will suffer a major loss. We will damage Lin Ming's blood essence today and have him pay the price for his rampant and flagrant actions. Ouyang Boxu devilishly smiled. This Lin Ming is such a self-important idiot. He is already wounded with this miserable appearance, but he still wants to kill my brother. If he was smart and had just a bit of respect, he would have stopped here and I wouldn't have had an excuse to harm him. But now, he can die. Go. Ouyang Guang gave a loud shot. Ouyang Boxu led the way, rushing to the front, his sword slashing towards Lin Ming's right arm. First I'll take your arm. Ouyang Boxu's lips curved up in a savage grin and his long sword whistled. Lin Ming faltered in his step, but still walked forwards. This sword contained all of Ouyang Boxu's potential. If Lin Ming's arm was severed, he could still reattach it, but at that point the damage would have been done. Lin Ming. Behind Lin Ming, Qin Xingxuan screamed as she covered her mouth in absolute horror. Even Qin Zia was pale. The zither in his spatial ring suddenly appeared in his hand. But Qin Zia was only at the early Xiantian realm. Against these 3 great senior Xiantian masters and even the middle Xiantian realm Ouyang Guang, Qin Zia was limited in what he could do. The thousands of people in the surroundings widened their eyes. For Ouyang Boxu to take advantage when someone was in such a helpless position was truly despicable, but this was also the best opportunity he would have. Lin Ming was a lamp that had run out of oil. Just how would he be able to defend against this? Die. Ouyang Boxu's long sword slashed down, a brilliant purple flame enveloping it. In a split second, Lin Ming's eyes suddenly condensed. The phoenix flame mark between his eyebrows suddenly combusted in a fiery blaze. Phoenix true blood, nirvana rebirth. Ho! A clarion phoenix cry sounded out, directly impacting through the heavens. From between Lin Ming's eyebrows, a powerful and dominant power of fire erupted. Phoenix true blood poured through the blood vessels of Lin Ming, causing his blood to boil. A phoenix was immortal and endless. Similarly, its bloodline was the same. It was able to bathe within the blazing fires of nirvana, and had the effect of being rebirthed even from the precipice of death. Normally, when a martial artist burned their blood essence, they could trade it for a powerful strength in return. But once blood essence was burned away, it was gone forever. However, Phoenix true blood was different. It itself was already capable of rising from the ashes of fire. Even if it were burned, it would not be reduced by the tiniest bit. This was the effect of the Phoenix true blood, a power that was capable of defying the heavens themselves. After this Phoenix true blood poured into Lin Ming, half of his bodily wounds were restored in just a blink of an eye. As for his true essence that was nearly depleted, with the combustion of the Phoenix true blood, it began to violently rise. Lin Ming's eyes were cold, just like stars from quiet nine heavens. The forceful coldness of his vision pierced through the hearts of those who met his eyes. As Lin Ming visions touched Ouyang Boksu subconsciously froze for a moment. He felt as if he were being glared at by a catastrophic monster, and chills ran all over his body. He had an ominous foreboding feeling creep up his heart, but it was already too late. Lin Ming shook the purple comet spear in his hands, and the vigorous fallen star flame combusted. Under the blessing of the Phoenix true blood, the flames became an increasingly deep and vibrant purple. Go die. Lin Ming's icy words were like an arctic wind that came from the endless abyss. His spear thrust out, flame howled, and the air trembled. The shining flames condensed into a phantom of a phoenix, directly shooting straight towards Ouyang Boksu. Divine Phoenix within the heavens. This was shockingly a killing move that Lin Ming had learnt from the third layer of the Vermilion Bird Forbidden Divine Chronicle within the Divine Phoenix mystic realm. Its might was naturally inferior to that of Thunderfire Annihilation, but it was still more than enough to deal with the early Xiantian realm Ouyang Boksu. What? How is this possible? The Lin Ming who had been like dying embers had suddenly ignited in a burst of raging power. As Ouyang Boksu saw this with his own eyes, he felt a sense of intense panic overtake him. He couldn't believe what was happening in front of his own eyes. But in this critical moment, Ouyang Boksu no longer had time to reflect on the reasons behind it. As the blazing flames swept towards him, Ouyang Boyu's expression completely changed. He loudly shouted and then slashed out at the flaming phoenix. Pang! It was just an instant, but the purple flames on Ouyang Boksu's sword were completely swallowed by the flaming phoenix. And then, that flaming phoenix continued to soar towards Ouyang Boksu. What? As Ouyang Boksu witnessed the flaming phoenix swallow his flames, he felt as if he had gone mad. He revolved his bodily true essence protection to the limit. Kai kai kai. There was only the sound of cracking, as if molten metal were being poured atop cold ice. Ouyang Boksu's protective true essence melted in an instant, and the flames engulfed him, swirling around his body. Ouyang Boksu sent out a miserable shriek. At the same time, Lin Ming stabbed his spear through Ouyang Boksu's dantian and then twisted. As Ouyang Boksu's dantian was shattered, he immediately died on the spot. All of the surrounding martial artists had fallen deathly silent, none of them were able to respond to this sudden change. How was this possible? Lin Ming, who had already spent all his energy, was actually able to suddenly erupt with strength to instantly kill Ouyang Boksu. Lin Ming's spatial ring flashed and Ouyang Boksu's corpse was sucked into it. Ouyang Boksu's spatial ring wasn't able to be placed into the pocket dimension, so Lin Ming took that himself. A single spear had killed Ouyang Boksu. At this time, Ouyang Guang and another elder were halfway to Lin Ming, and they suddenly lagged as they saw this horrifying scene. Most of their momentum instantly dissipated. Lin Ming didn't stop. His eyes flashed with a cold light and he took a step forwards, his spear thrusting towards Ouyang Guang. Ouyang Guang had already lost a massive amount of true essence from his earlier fight, and had even been wounded. Although he was at the crest of the Middle Xiantian realm, now his strength was at the lowest of the Middle Xiantian realm masters. His complexion completely changed. He now realized how terrifying and severe Lin Ming's killing intent was. This spear was not a sparring shot or a deterrent, it was a true killing strike. If he could not block this, he would die. In that instant, Ouyang Guang felt cold sweat trickle down his back. Just then, a purple light flashed at his side. The Acacia faction elder who had attacked together with him had abandoned all else and ran away. The disciples of the Acacia faction had never had much loyalty to begin with, they had always placed their own lives as their top priority in life. As this elder saw Lin Ming lock onto Ouyang Guang, he immediately escaped. Compared to his life, honor was nothing. Damn! Ouyang Guang's eyes widened. However, he now had no choice but to face Lin Ming's spear. You've gone too far. Ouyang Guang's sword potential turned. From the bottom up, he cut against Lin Ming's purple comet spear. However, as his sword cut against the spear, he felt a strange vibrating energy spread into his body from the spear. His arm shook, and the sword fell from his hand. Ouyang Guang was shocked. At this time, Lin Ming's spear swept out, the cold tip of the purple comet spear carrying a billowing flame. Pang! Ouyang Guang's sword slashed down on the flames of the purple comet spear. However, a tiny wisp of purple flame essence split off from the flames and silently fell onto Ouyang Guang's chest. Puff! The fallen star flame was like a serpent that penetrated into Ouyang Guang's body. Chapter 426 Auspicious Sign of the Heavens. Chapter 426 Auspicious Sign of the Heavens. Chapter 426 Auspicious Sign of the Heavens. The corrosive fallen star flame essence drilled straight through Ouyang Guang's stomach, piercing through his dantian and shooting out from behind. Ouyang Guang grabbed onto the shaft of the purple comet spear. He slowly looked down at the hole in his stomach that was pouring out thick, black blood, his face colored with disbelief. He extended his hand out, waving it in front of him as if he wanted to grab onto something. However, his eyes relaxed and dulled, and the light faded from them. Ouyang Guang fell to his knees, and then softly plopped onto the floor. So far, of the 7 elders and sovereign from the Acacia faction, some had died, some were severely wounded, and some had escaped. There were none left. The entire main island was emptied, even Ouyang Ming had returned to a small island. Now, on the main island, the only one left standing was Lin Ming. With his own strength, not even the 7 great elders of the Acacia faction had been able to stop him. Such a frightening strength caused all the surrounding martial artists to hold their breath, afraid that they would attract the attention of this monster in human form. Lin Ming took the purple comet spear and walked in front of Ouyang Boyan. At this time, Ouyang Boyan only had a single breath of life left. He glanced at Lin Ming, but his eyes had already glazed over. The purple comet spear flashed with a cold light, and there was a light-piercing sound as a gaping hole appeared in Ouyang Boyan's stomach, followed by a shower of blood. All of the surrounding martial artists from small sects jumped, feeling faint at heart. Just a moment ago, this had been a lively and grand celebratory banquet. Ouyang Boyan had been filled with happiness and elation due to his breakthrough, but now, that happy man had been slaughtered in a way no different from a farm chicken. Such a great contrast caused everyone to feel a deep sense of awe and dread. Lin Ming placed Ouyang Boyan's corpse into his spatial ring. He wanted to verify something. Was a Xiantian martial artist's blood essence able to open the magic cube once again? Lin Ming, you're all right. Qin Xingxuan ran over to Lin Minute and helped support him, her face filled with worry and concern. Lin Ming's appearance was just too horrible at the moment. He was bruised all over, and his true essence had been overdrawn. I'm all right. Lin Ming brightly smiled at Qin Xingxuan to reassure her and let her feel more at ease. He said, come on, let's go home. Senior Master. Ouyang Boyan had died. In the back mountains of the 7 profound valleys, Shizongtian stood outside of a cave mansion, his face solemn. As the 7 profound valleys Valley Master, the only one that Shizongtian would refer to with such respect would be the highest elder of the 7 profound valleys, Jiang Huan. Jiang Huan was now 500 years old. He had been stranded at the early revolving core realm, and was reaching the end of his life. In these past many years, he had gone into closed seclusion. The reason that Jiang Huan was in seclusion was not because he wanted to break past the early revolving core realm. He was well aware that his life was nearly exhausted, and breaking through was nothing but a wild dream. Jiang Huan had used this method of seclusion in order to delay the embers of his flickering life from fading. He greatly hoped that he would be able to maintain his feeble existence and linger on in the world until the day that Jiang Baoyun made a breakthrough to the extreme Xiantian realm. Only such a super powerhouse like that would be able to guarantee the stability of the 7 profound valleys. Therefore, in these past years, regardless of any matter, Jiang Huan rarely left his cave mansion, and that why was rumors had been passed along in the smaller sects that Jiang Huan was in life or death closed-door seclusion. I know. As Jiang Huan slowly spoke, his voice had a faint dying energy. In fact, Jiang Huan had already been made aware of the situation ever since Lin Ming had broken into the 7 profound valleys, and was very clear on the entire process of what had happened. Shi Zongtian hesitated and said, "Should I go and speak with Lin Ming?" Although the Sword faction and Acacia faction had many disagreements, and even many areas in which they were complete and polar opposites, they were still in the same sect. Lin Ming had killed one after another within the Acacia faction, and this would ruin their Sword faction's reputation too. If this spread out, then others would say that the 7 profound valleys had been invaded by a 20-something-year-old baby, and no one dared to even admonish him. Jiang Huang said, "There's no point in you going. Since Lin Ming came to the 7 profound valleys, he naturally has something to rely on. If it's as you said and Lin Ming truly does have a reason to take revenge, then Ouyang Boyan wouldn't have sat idly by. I thought that he would rely on the Acacia faction and pay off Lin Ming with some high price, but I never thought that he would underestimate Lin Ming's strength to this degree. In truth, it wasn't just him who underestimated Lin Ming, but also me. I never would have dreamed that Lin Ming's strength was already formidable to this degree." Shi Zongtian listened silently, not speaking. He had a certain understanding of Lin Ming's personality. Even if he went, he would just lose face in the end no matter what he did. If that was the case, then he might as well not go. Not just that, but Lin Ming also came here riding a vermilion bird. The vermilion bird represented Divine Phoenix Island and wouldn't recklessly attack the 7 profound valleys, but it was still a form of deterrence. Thinking things over, Shi Zongtian sighed. Finally, he decided not to involve himself with this matter. Everything would be settled by Lin Ming and the Acacia faction. On the highest peak of the Acacia faction, a resonant phoenix cry echoed through the heavens. The vermilion bird shot into the sky. Nobody dared to stop Lin Ming. In the view of the surrounding martial artists, Lin Ming had forced his way into the Acacia faction and killed several of their great elders. But the other 6 factions of the 7 profound valleys hadn't even appeared, and Lin Ming had carkily sauntered his way out. The banquet naturally couldn't continue. The martial artists from the small sects quickly excused themselves and left. After the 7 great elders had been completely wasted by Lin Ming alone, the one with the highest status left on scene was Ouyang Ming. The martial artists quickly spoke their farewells to Ouyang Ming. Ouyang Ming ruefully smiled. He never thought that the celebratory banquet the Acacia faction held today would have such a result. Ouyang Ming was no longer inclined to think about Lin Ming. He and Lin Ming were destined to follow different paths and tread on different worlds. He wouldn't take Lin Ming as his goal in life. Instead, he would just believe that Lin Ming no longer existed. The wind howled. Lin Ming, Qin Xingxuan, and Qin Zia all stood atop the vermilion bird. They had already left the range of the 7 profound valleys mountains. Lin Ming said, "Martial House Master Qin, what are you planning to do in the future?" Qin Zia thought for a moment and then said, "I will stay in the 7 profound valleys in the future." There were already many conflicts between the Zither faction and the Acacia faction. Although I have offended the Acacia faction this time, it won't affect me much. Martial House Master Qin, how about switching sects? For instance, joining Divine Phoenix Island? Divine Phoenix Island, consider it finished. In my life, I pursue the Zither with my heart and soul. I can only do this within the Zither faction. Divine Phoenix Island does not suit me. Lin Ming nodded. What Qin Zia said was right. He had spent half his life cultivating the zither. It was impossible for him to branch out and practice other cultivation methods again. Then, I must separate with Martial House Master Qin. When I was stranded within the Divine Phoenix mystic realm, it was all thanks to Martial House Master Qin that Xingxuan remained safe for as long as she did. I, Lin Ming, will engrave this kindness onto my mind. Qin Zia laughed and said, if it wasn't for you, I would never have stepped into the Xiantian realm. If we are speaking of kindnesses, then yours is greater than mine. This time in helping Miss Qin, the truth is that I didn't play much of a role. I could only do as much as I could in order to not frustrate my thoughts. To those from the Zither faction and Sword faction who were mostly honest and held a greater value towards integrity, they would never feel comfortable if they owed anyone anything. Only when they returned the favor would they feel at peace. So in general, these individuals didn't often owe favors to others. Lin Ming, this is where we part. I bid you farewell, take care of yourself. Qin Zia waved his sleeves, and then leapt down from the vermilion bird. His white clothing quickly vanished within the strong heavenly winds. Lin Ming watched as Qin Zia's figure disappeared. He cupped his fists across his chest and said, Martial House Master Qin, please take care. Lin Ming, where will we go to? Qin Xingxuan asked as she stood beside Lin Ming. She had already prepared to follow Lin Ming to the edges of heaven and the ends of the earth. First we'll go home, and then we'll go to Divine Phoenix Island. You can cultivate within Divine Phoenix Island. Millimeter, then let's do as you say. Qin Xingxuan bit her lips, feeling incomparably at peace. With Lin Ming, she no longer worried about anything at all. Sky Fortune Kingdom was several 100,000 miles away from the 7 profound valleys. Transferring news was often a very slow and arduous process. In order to activate a sound transmission array once, it required a great amount of true essence stones, and would also wear down the limited integrity of the array formation, shortening its life. In normal circumstances, the current 7 profound Martial House Master, who was also Ouyang Boyon's disciple, would only make a report to Ouyang Boyon once a month. Now that Ouyang Boyon had died, there was no longer anyone to manage this chess piece he had left within Sky Fortune Kingdom. In fact, besides Ouyang Boyon, not many people knew that Yang Zhen and this cloaked man were followers of Ouyang Boyon. These people were on a very low level. The Acacia faction elders naturally wouldn't bother with them. The news of single-handedly killing his way into the Acacia faction and wrecking them hadn't yet spread out. Before the second-grade sect disciples had returned to their sect, Lin Ming had already arrived back at Sky Fortune Kingdom. With the vermilion bird's astoundingly extreme speed along with the use of 2 transmission arrays, Lin Ming had managed to return to Sky Fortune Kingdom in a single day and night. On this day, all of Qin Xingxuan's anxieties and fears had been clearly seen by Lin Ming's eyes. The Qin family members' lives were all at stake, so of course Qin Xingxuan was nervous. It was an ordinary morning in Sky Fortune City. The sun had just risen, and the fresh and bright sunlight had just started spreading throughout the city. The common peasant workers held their hoes across their shoulders as they headed to the fields outside the city to farm. Merchants sold their wares in their shops. At this moment, a bright red light flashed on the horizon. From afar, it was like a massive group of flames was burning the air. This flame was at first very small, but it began to grow at an alarming speed. Everyone quickly realized that this wasn't a group of flames, but rather a fiery bird. Everyone couldn't help but stop whatever work they were doing and stare at the sky, dazed. A resounding phoenix cry spread through the horizon. The massive vermilion bird with its 100-foot wingspan cut across the limitless blue sky. All of Sky Fortune City's residents were shocked. Phoenix. Heavens! Is that a phoenix? Am I dreaming? To mortals, a phoenix was an existence that they had only heard about in ancient stories and legends. In the legends, when an emperor had united the dynasty and performed a great deed, a phoenix would appear unto the world. This was the so-called auspicious sign of the heavens. The phoenix is flying to the royal palace. With that, people quickly came to their senses. This must be related to the great deeds of the newly crowned emperor. Thinking of this, everyone quickly kneeled on the ground, prostrating themselves in worship as they stared at this phoenix in the sky. At this time, in the vast grand hall of Sky Fortune City's royal palace, young Zhen was meeting his court. Within 30 days of ascending the throne, he had summoned the representatives of the different provinces and was to meet with them. Under the grand podium, hundreds of leaders and officials from the various provinces were kneeling. Young Zhen was sitting grandly above them. At this moment, he heard a shrill cry as someone entered. A court eunuch burst into the grand hall, a great smile on his face as he shouted, "Emperor! This is a great occasion, a great occasion. An auspicious sign of the heavens has come. An auspicious sign of the heavens." Chapter 4:27 Changing Heavens. Chapter 4:27 Changing Heavens. Chapter 4:27 Changing Heavens. All of the officials and officers looked over. Their faces were filled with surprise as they saw this fat eunuch that looked like a giant meatball barge into the palace's grand hall. After attracting everyone's attention to himself, the middle-aged eunuch seemed to notice that and began to wave to everyone as he happily reported such a wonderful event. He coughed to clear his throat, and then the middle-aged eunuch said, "Emperor, an auspicious heavenly sign has arrived. A phoenix has come." Millimeter? Phoenix? Young Zhen was startled, and then a joyous smile immediately crossed his face. Really? Just as Young Zhen asked that, there was suddenly a resounding phoenix cry from overhead. All of the officials and officers were startled. Could it be? Was that actually a phoenix flying overhead? Everyone quickly ran out of the grand hall, not daring to believe unless they could verify this with their own eyes. They ran out and were incomparably shocked when they saw a massive phoenix with a 100-foot wingspan gently floating in midair. And on the back of that phoenix were several immortal beings. The wind whistled and flames howled around them. Such an auspicious event caused everyone's eyes to go round like moons. This was a scene that had only ever been described in ancient legends. Young Zhen was euphoric. He had usurped the throne, forced his father to abdicate the throne, and had even placed his elder brother under house arrest. None of these were glorious actions, but now that an almighty phoenix had arrived, this was the perfect chance for him to restore his honor. As he was about to bow to the two immortals on the phoenix and introduce himself, at this moment, the bright smile on his face suddenly froze. As he saw the young man and woman on top of that phoenix, Yang Zhen's face went from a disbelieving happiness to abject horror. Lin Ming, Qin Xingxuan. Lin Ming moved, stepping on the wind and slowly falling from the sky. A faint aura emanated from him. Combined with the phoenix behind him that burned with brilliant radiant flames, this image was too impactful. Everyone else couldn't help but fall to their knees in worship. Yang Zhong was already afraid, but now he was frightened out of his mind. How was this possible? Wasn't Lin Ming already dead? Lin. Mr. Lin, Yang Zhen stuttered. You're alive. I'm so excited that I can see you again. Yang Zhen's entire body was in a cold sweat. In just a few words, sweat had already begun to drip down his fingertips. Besides Yang Zhen, there were a few officials that recognized Lin Ming from a banquet a long time ago, when he had displayed his amazing movement techniques. They had a very high status within Sky Fortune Kingdom, and they had also heard many things concerning Lin Ming. Thus, they deeply understood just what Lin Ming's status was. Lin Ming sarcastically looked at Yang Zhen, excited. Yang Zhen, how come I can see you shaking? Lin Ming's words shocked everyone present, including all the officials and ministers. Most of those present didn't recognize Lin Ming. To them, the world that Lin Ming lived in was just too distant a reality. In their minds, the emperor was the heavens, a nigh unreachable existence. Just who was this person? He spoke to the emperor directly using his full name, and it was also obvious that the emperor feared him. After Yang Zhen had ascended to the throne, he had launched a massive campaign to clear out all the past officials, making everyone feel insecure of their own position. Even the legendary and renowned Marshal Qin Xiao had been placed under house arrest. Who else still dared to oppose Yang Zhen? With just a few words from Yang Zhen, their entire families would be beheaded and their fortunes taken. And yet, this cold-blooded and heartless emperor was at the moment frightened to the point that he was dripping sweat. Mr. Lin, I beg you, spare my life. I was confused. The new 7 Profound Martial House Master tricked me, and Ouyang Boyon forced me to do what I did. I can be your most faithful servant. I can even testify against Ouyang Boyon on your behalf if you give me the chance to do so, Yongzhen said with a true essence sound transmission. This year his cultivation had managed to reach the altering muscle stage, and he was able to use this skill. Lin Ming sneered, Ouyang Boyon has been slain by my hand. If you want to testify against him, then you can do so in hell. What? Yongzhen uttered in a daze. Ouyang Boyon had been killed by Lin Ming. Ca. An azure light flashed, and Yongzhen's expression was forever frozen in this dazed look. A thread of azure true essence had been injected into his heart, directly bursting it. Yongzhen had died on the spot. Plop. Yongzhen slumped to the ground. After his heart burst open, blood began to flow out from his nose and mouth. Emperor! Emperor! The middle-aged eunuch was horrified, his face turning white. After Yongzhen suddenly died, the royal palace was in chaos. Everyone was terrified, falling to the ground on their knees, begging as their hands trembled. All of the officials looked as though they had lost their souls. In just a breath of time, the emperor had been killed in front of everyone. Some officials who knew a bit more of what was happening fell silent. They understood one thing, and that was that the heavens would change. Yang Lin would ascend to the newly emptied throne, and Qin Xiao would be restored to his great position and authority. All of those who assisted Yang Zhen in clearing out the old guard would be demoted and cast away, or perhaps, maybe their entire families would be slaughtered. This was the brutality of a struggle for authority. But in front of absolute power, any authority paled in comparison. After Lin Ming killed Yang Zhen, he didn't even bother to say anything to the chaotic crowds of people at the royal palace. He hopped onto Fire Shine and rode non-stop to the 7 Profound Martial House. The 7 Profound Martial House was located at Sky Fortune City's Dew Mountains. This distance of 10 miles was just a blink of an eye to the extreme speed of a vermilion bird. As he spread his sense down, Lin Ming instantly located the current 7 Profound Martial House Master that Yang Zhen had spoken of. Within the entire martial house, he was the only half-step Xiantian martial artist. Bang! The main hall fiercely shook. The cloaked man that was cultivating in seclusion was suddenly startled. He jumped out from his quiet room. Who is it? Who dares to force their way into my 7 Profound Martial House? The cloaked man was furious. Then, he froze as he saw the massive vermilion bird and the two individuals that stood on it. Lin Ming, Qin Xingxuan. Not only did the cloaked man see Lin Ming, but many of the disciples of the 7 Profound Martial House saw him. With such a giant vermilion bird flying into the 7 Profound Martial House, it was difficult to not notice this. The disciples that had entered into the 7 Profound Martial House with Lin Ming hadn't graduated yet. As they saw Lin Ming atop the vermilion bird, they were stunned. Is that person Senior Apprentice Brother Lin? To the disciples of the 7 Profound Martial House, Lin Ming was a fable, a living legend that they worshipped. After he stayed at the 7 Profound Martial House for just half a year, he had become the champion of the 7 Profound Valleys Total Faction Martial Meeting. It was like he was a hero from the myth. Afterwards, they had heard that he had been personally selected by some large sect and had also become that sect's top disciple. Without a doubt, Lin Ming would become a Xiantian master in the future. To the disciples of the 7 Profound Martial House, a Xiantian master was also a character only heard of in legends. There were many new disciples that had heard of Lin Ming's great name even before they had joined the 7 Profound Martial House. They dreamt that one day they would become an awe-inspiring powerhouse like Lin Ming. It really looks like him. And behind him, is that Senior Apprentice Sister Qin? How is this possible? Wasn't it said that Senior Apprentice Brother Lin died? Not just that, but what are they riding? Is that a phoenix? Senior Apprentice Brother Lin's cultivation is. Several Viscera training stage youths stared with wide eyes, but they still couldn't see Lin Ming's current cultivation. For a Viscera training stage martial artist to not be able to see someone's cultivation, that could only mean that they were at least at the late pulse condensation period, or even the peak pulse condensation period. Senior apprentice Brother Lin has already broken through to the peak pulse condensation period. That's impossible. Senior apprentice Brother Lin is indeed powerful, he's so fierce. 17 years old and yet he is at the peak pulse condensation period. In the future he'll become a Xiantian master. I wonder why senior apprentice Brother Lin came back to the Seven Profound Martial House. Does Had have something he needs to speak with the Martial House Master about? Could it be about the next Total Faction Martial meeting? As soon as someone mentioned the Total Faction Martial meeting, everyone, especially the younger disciples, became giddy with excitement. As they were discussing this, Wang Yangfeng was silently gazing at Lin Ming in the sky, his eyes shining. He wasn't at the peak pulse condensation period, but at the late Hutian realm. Wang Yangfeng gasped and then clenched his fists. Not too long ago, he had participated in the Seven Profound Martial House entrance examination with Lin Ming. At that time there had been a fierce battle for first place. But now the difference between them was like clouds and mud. Who are you? Why have you come here? The cloaked man's expression changed. These past years, he had been traveling the world for his own pleasure and hadn't been at the Total Faction Martial meeting. Naturally, he wouldn't know what Lin Ming looked like. Although Lin Ming's cultivation was inferior to his, he had a faint sense that this youth in front of him was a terrifying being. Are you the current Seven Profound Martial House Master? Lin Ming blankly asked. The cloaked man frowned. He faintly felt that Lin Ming came here with ill intent, but there was no way to deny this. He nodded his head and said, I am. Oh really? Lin Ming coldly smiled. He heard from Qin Xingxuan that Yang Zhan had used the support of the current Martial House Master in order to successfully ascend to the throne. Afterwards, when the campaign had been launched to purge the old officials, Qin Xiao had been captured without a fight because of this cloaked man. Then, it's not an injustice for you to die. Lin Ming stretched out his palm, a purple arc of thunder flashed out. Humph. After he sensed Lin Ming's ill intent, the cloaked man was already on high alert. He coldly snorted and then drew out the long sword from its sheath, his entire body boiling with purple flames. A sword cut down on the purple thunder. But as soon as the long sword touched the purple thunder, the purple flames that enveloped the sword were instantly scattered by the power of thunder. Sirai. A finger-long arc of purple electricity sunk into the cloaked man's body, and all of his organs instantly blew up. The cloaked man vomited out a massive amount of blood, and then fell down from the roof of the main hall. Peng! The cloaked man crashed into the ground, his blood spattering all over the floor. In that instant, all of the Seven Profound Martial House disciples were frightened. They couldn't believe their own eyes as they looked at the dead cloaked man, their eyes completely round. What was this all about? Lin Ming had instantly killed the new Martial House Master. The purple light had just flashed. Although it was fast, it still left behind an afterimage in the eyes of everyone present. Not just that, but the cloaked man had also used his sword in a counterattack. But still, in that flash, the cloaked man had suddenly died. The new Martial House Master, whose cultivation was at a half-step Xiantian, and who was no weaker than the old Martial House Master Qinzia, was actually killed in an instant. How was this possible? And, why did Lin Ming do this? The entire Seven Profound Martial House was buzzing with noise. Wang Yangfeng also didn't fully understand what was happening. But at this moment, he saw a white light flying towards him. It was a porcelain bottle. He subconsciously reached out his hand to grab it, and as soon as he glanced at it, he saw that it was a bottle of pills. A sound echoed near Wang Yanfeng's ears. These are pills for a pulse condensation period martial artist. The Seven Profound Valleys will soon send a new Martial House Master. Farewell Wang Yangfeng. If it is in our fates, we shall meet again. After Lin Ming sent his message, he jumped onto the vermilion bird's back. The vermilion bird shot up into the sky and quickly vanished into the endless sea of clouds. Wang Yangfeng held the bottle of pills in his hand. He gazed at the vermilion bird as it faded into the foggy skies above the Ju Mountains. For a time, he stood there, absently staring into the skies. Lin Ming, do you know that young man? Qin Xingxuan asked from atop the vermilion bird. Not really, I just found that he has a firm heart of martial arts, so I'm giving him a hand. Lin Ming thoughtlessly said. If one didn't have resources, it would be difficult to practice to the upper reaches of martial arts. To reach the highest boundaries was simply too difficult. Whether it was Wang Yanfeng's heart of martial arts or his talent, both were adequate. If he were to waste too much time because of his lack of resources, that would be too pitiful. Lin Ming, where are we going now? We'll go to your family. Lin Ming smiled at Qin Xingxuan. On the trip here, he hadn't had the chance to study the magic cube. He would go to the Qin mansion and take a rest there. In the meantime, he would be able to confirm his suspicions about the magic cube. Chapter 428 Opening the Magic Cube Again. Chapter 428 Opening the Magic Cube Again. Chapter 428 Opening the Magic Cube Again. Sky Fortune City, Martial Quarters. The martial quarters had been surrounded for over a month by the army, and not even servants were allowed to leave. But now, within a quarter of an hour of Yang Zhen's death, those officials that had realized the vast changes that were about to sweep through the nation instantly lifted the order of house arrest for Qin Xiao. Undoubtedly, Crown Prince Yang Lin would make a return and ascend to the throne. As for Qin Xiao, he would be restored to his position as one of the highest officials, and his status would be even more terrifying than it was in the past. During this time, anyone who didn't try to curry favor with these two would be fools. Qin Xiao was surrounded by many officials that had come to the martial quarters. They discussed plans to pave the way for a smoother future. Even those who accompanied Qin Xiao received a high level of respect. Even nobles dared not to disrespect them. These nobles constantly referred to them as little brother or old master in case they be seen as not paying their due respects. Especially those nobles that had defected to Yang Zhen's side before. They were all in absolute fear, and they all wished that they could cut out their hearts and let Qin Xiao know the depths of their newfound loyalty. It had to be known that in a struggle for authority, the winning side would often engage in a bloody purge. As for all those that had followed Yang Zhen, they might also be exterminated. In this situation, how could they not be afraid? They all wished to take Qin Xiao as their own father and venerate him in the same way. As Qin Xiao and the group of nobles that followed him entered past the gates of the Qin residence, they saw a massive vermilion bird fly down onto the courtyard. Its brilliant red feathers burned with radiant flames as it sent out a pulsing aura. All of the nobles' throats twitched as they stared at this magnificent creature. Master, Master, Mr. Lin has brought the young miss back. They are waiting for you in the rear courtyard. A middle-aged steward said. Xingxuan, Qin Xiao shook, and his heart filled with a surge of emotion. He thought that he would never have the chance to see his precious granddaughter ever again. But who knew that in just one night, the situation would change so much? Qin Xiao followed the steward to the rear courtyard. The other nobles stayed back. They were aware of their own status. What kind of existence was Lin Ming? How could they possibly have the qualifications to see him? To someone like Lin Ming, nobles, royalty, or even the emperor himself were nothing but clouds of smoke, merely meaningless existences. Therefore these people very casually greeted the housekeeper and sat down in the lobby, drinking tea and chatting with each other. Grandfather. As soon as Qin Xiao entered the rear courtyard, Qin Xingxuan gave a loud cry and threw herself into Qin Xiao's arms. She had anxiously worried over her grandfather's condition for over a month. Now that she saw her grandfather safe and unharmed, Qin Xingxuan couldn't suppress all the pain and worry she had been keeping down until now. Tears flowed down her cheeks like strings of crystal beads. Grandfather is all right. Qin Xiao patted Qin Xingxuan on the back. At this age, Qin Xiao had already lived through many great storms. In this world, there was very little that could cause Qin Xiao to feel great sorrow or great happiness. Now, what Qin Xiao worried about was only the legacy of his Qin family, as well as his most precious children and grandchildren. Qin Xiao looked at Qin Xingxuan, his eyes full of grandfatherly love. To have such an outstanding granddaughter was truly the blessing of the heavens. Qin Xiao glanced at Lin Ming. Towards this amazing young man in front of him, Qin Xiao wasn't sure what to feel. Gratitude, happiness, fear, or all sorts of emotions intertwined in the same place. Qin Xiao didn't even know what he should call Lin Ming. Before this, he had received the news that the current 7 Profound Martial Housemaster had already been slain by Lin Ming in a single instant. The young and respectful youth in front of him was a man that even the 7 Profound Valleys Valley Master had to pay 3 points of respect to. This was a level that had already surpassed Qin Xiao's understanding. He hoped that he could urge Qin Xingxuan and Lin Ming to wed. But this sort of matter wasn't something he could ask. He no longer had the ability to arrange or manage his granddaughter's life. Marshal Qin, please catch up with Xingxuan. I will leave first for a moment. Lin Ming bowed as a respectful junior would, and then left the room. Outside of the room, the middle-aged steward was waiting for him. Mr. Lin, there is someone waiting to see you. See me. I thought I said I didn't want to see anyone. Lin Ming didn't want to see the nobles of Sky Fortune City. All they wanted to do was to kiss up to him and shower him with gifts. He had no interest towards any of this. Well, she said she was an old acquaintance of yours. Old acquaintance. The first one Lin Ming thought of was Lan Yunyu. However, when he saw who it was, he was a bit taken aback. The one waiting for him was a young, delicate-looking girl who had an air of elegance. This was Bai Jingyun. Bai Jingyun and Murongzi were called the 7 Profound Proud Pair, and they were also top characters within the 7 Profound Martial House. Lin Ming and Bai Jingyun didn't have much contact with each other. It was just that he had helped her make several inscription symbols for treasures before. Towards Bai Jingyun, Lin Ming didn't have a deep impression, and had nearly forgotten who she was. When Bai Jingyun saw Lin Ming, she faintly smiled and bowed. Mr. Lin. Lin Ming was a bit awkward at being called Mr. Lin. He said, please refer to me as you used to. After all, we used to be fellow disciples. Millimeter, then I'll call you Brother Lin. Bai Jingyun smiled. To be honest, when I first saw Brother Lin enter the 7 Profound Martial House, I thought that Brother Lin had infinite potential to grow. But I never thought that in just a few years, Brother Lin would have already reached this point. Bai Jingyun couldn't help but see. The first time that Lin Ming had rushed into the 10,000 killing array, his rank had been lower than hers. But now, even the 7 Profound Martial Housemaster had been instantly killed by him. This was simply like a dream. Millimeter, I've obtained some great opportunities. My luck has been too good. Destiny is also a part of talent. Bai Jingyun shook her head, and then looked unsure, as her eyes flashed with a strange light. Brother Lin, may I ask you a question? Please ask. Bai Jingyun hesitated, and then slowly asked, a year and a half ago, were you the one that killed Ouyang Dihua? There were only a few people within the entire Sky Fortune City that knew of the grudge between Lin Ming and Ouyang Dihua. Besides Yang Zhan, the cloaked man, and some others, no one else was aware. People didn't even know that Yang Zhan had drawn relations with the cloaked man. They only assumed that Yang Zhan had gained the backing of some great figure within the 7 Profound Valleys. As for who it was, no one knew. Bai Jingyun naturally didn't know. However, she was able to trace some clues and make a guess. For instance, in the past before Lin Ming had left the Sky Fortune Kingdom, he had his parents moved away. The new martial housemaster came from the Acacia faction. Ouyang Boyon had once visited Sky Fortune Kingdom, and after news of Lin Ming's death spread, Yang Zhan began to move against the Qin family. This series of events were all related. Bai Jingyun managed to connect them, and therefore she had come to ask Lin Ming to verify this. At this moment, Lin Ming didn't have any reason to hide it. He nodded and said, I was the one who killed Ouyang Dihua. After Bai Jingyun heard Lin Ming's words, she let out a long breath. Her eyes gently closed, and her eyelashes trembled. The pressure that had been on her heart and mind for this past year and a half seemed to vanish. Although this matter was now complete, and she had obtained a truth that had no significance behind it, she still felt tired. As her eyes opened, Bai Jingyun was calm once again. Thank you, Brother Lin. Lin Ming shook his head. There is no need to thank me. The reason that I killed him was because he had the intention of killing me first. Humans were all different. In truth, the Acacia faction was not so terrible to female disciples. If they could lay down their modesty and pride, Then they would be able to obtain many things that they desired from the Acacia faction. There were even many girls that only had ordinary talent, but were still considered beautiful, that were desperately trying to join the Acacia faction in order to obtain wealth and longer youth. Lin Ming sighed, and then took out a pair of pill bottles from his spatial ring. He said, "Senior apprentice Sister Bai, of these pill bottles, one is for you. As for the other, could you pass it to Lan Yunyu if you see her? These medicines have very mild properties, and if you eat them carefully, it will guarantee that you step into the pulse condensation period." Bai Jingyun's talent was considered good within the 7 profound martial house. As a martial artist, she also hoped that one day she would be able to break through to the pulse condensation period. But now, as she looked at these pill bottles, Bai Jingyun didn't feel any joy. After experiencing a number of things, it was as if she no longer wished to pursue these things. Bai Jingyun hesitated and then silently received the pair of pill bottles. She said, "Miss Lan has been managing her fabric shop in the northern end of town for the last few years. About Brother Lin returning, she is probably already aware." Bai Jingyun was implying that Lan Yunyu didn't want to see Lin Ming. Now that things had changed between them, there was no longer any meaning in them seeing each other. It would just make things embarrassing for the both of them. Lin Ming was silent, and then sighed in his heart. Perhaps these calm and peaceful days were much more suitable for Lan Yunyu. This bottle of pills that he gave to her could be considered the last of their karma. From now on, all that was between them would completely vanish into nothing. After Lin Ming bid Bai Jingyun farewell, he returned to his room alone. He had already told the steward that no one was to disturb him, not even to deliver meals. Like this, Lin Ming entered the ethereal martial intent and sat in meditation for 3 or 4 hours. When he opened his eyes, it was already evening. Lin Ming stood up and then took out a small jar from his spatial ring. There was a thick red liquid within this small jar. This was the blood essence that he had taken from Ouyang Boyon as well as Ouyang Boksu. From the last time that Lin Ming had touched the magic cube with the blood essence of a Hutian master and opened it to today, it had been nearly 2 years. In 2 years, Lin Ming's strength had reached the extreme Xiantian realm. What he wanted to know was, could a Xiantian master's blood essence open the magic cube once more? Lin Ming impatiently wanted to verify this hypothesis. Lin Ming ruefully smiled and then shook his head, mocking himself. "My mind is too messy. This mentality isn't suitable for opening the magic cube." The more valuable something was, the more he needed his heart and mind to be at peace. Otherwise, if his heart was spurred by greed, it might expose all sorts of flaws in his mind. Currently, Lin Ming wasn't too desperate or desiring of the legacies within the magic cube. What he wanted the most was to explore the secrets of the magic cube. Where did it come from? Who created it? How was it made? What was it guiding him to do? Lin Ming always felt that the magic cube was sentient. It was only that this magic cube seemed to stand at the height of all existence, and looked down on everything with indifferent disdain, including even Lin Ming himself. This so-called heartless to all of heaven and earth, taking all of existence as nothing but straw dogs, to the magic cube, it cared about nothing. It was indifferent to everything, and would stay this way despite any change to the world. As Lin Ming's mood calmed down again, he stripped off his clothes, exposing a strange symbol on his left chest. This pattern was the mysterious inscription of the magic cube. Chapter 429 Demon Emperor. Chapter 429 Demon Emperor. Chapter 429 Demon Emperor. Lin Ming took a deep breath. He had washed his hands, his face, burned incense, and had adjusted his own mindset so that there wasn't even the slightest trace of turbulent emotions. Then he poured the blood essence onto his chest. The crimson blood essence dripped down. At first there wasn't a reaction, but after a breath of time, there was a kai-kai-kai sound. The blood essence seemed to be corroding, and was emitting a faint trace of blue smoke. As a burning pain emitted from his chest area, Lin Ming furrowed his eyebrows. He felt his heart, and then released his sense to investigate the magic cube under his chest area that was releasing strange fluctuations of energy, hoping to find some clues. After it went to sleep near Lin Ming's heart, the magic cube seemed to have disappeared. If it didn't reveal itself of its own initiative, Lin Ming would never have been able to sense it. But now, as the magic cube absorbed the blood essence, Lin Ming was finally able to detect its existence. However, right after, Lin Ming felt his spiritual sea tremble. The perception he released seemed as if it were being sucked into the magic cube. Against this powerful suction power, Lin Ming couldn't react in time, he simply wasn't able to offer any resistance. In the next instant, Lin Ming's consciousness had arrived into a dark, jet-black space that stretched infinitely outwards. It was as if he were floating in the starry sky. He was extremely familiar with this space. This was the space within the magic cube. Beside Lin Ming, dense mist floated all around him. Within this mist there were many shining lights. They slowly revolved around a giant foot-wide light sphere in the center, as if they were stars in heaven. I'm finally here. The second time it had been a Hutian martial artist's blood essence that had opened the magic cube. The third time it had been a Xiantian master's blood essence. The fourth time would probably require that of a revolving core master. Lin Ming was sure that even if it was a revolving core master's blood essence, it wouldn't have much of an effect on the magic cube. In fact, this was most likely the magic cube finding a way to tell him that it needed the blood essence of powerhouses. The giant soul shard light sphere in the center shined with a milky, soft light. The countless soul fragments around it were like sparkling crystal. Although Lin Ming had arrived within the magic cube space, he still felt a bit of disappointment. Even now, he didn't understand anything more about the magic cube. As Lin Ming released his sense to touch upon all the soul fragments, he discovered to his surprise that not only was his soul force growing stronger with time, but also that he could feel the vague aura that the soul fragments released. Some soul fragments were gentle, and others were overbearing. There were even those that had a faint hint of blood and devil arts. This should be because of the cultivation methods that they had cultivated while they were alive. The energy was extremely faint, Lin Ming could only roughly approximate. As he looked at the soul fragments, he did so very carefully. He couldn't guarantee beyond a doubt that all of these soul fragments were ownerless. There was a possibility that there were some soul fragments on which the spirit mark wasn't destroyed yet. If he selected one like that, he would be in a worst-case situation. All of these supreme elders of the realm of the gods were earth-shaking characters that dominated worlds before they died. Even if there was just the tiniest amount of leftover will within a soul fragment, there was no way that Lin Ming would be able to resist it. Lin Ming had been in the magic cube space for a long time. He didn't dare to rashly release his sense everywhere, he passively sensed his surroundings. After some time, Lin Ming's eyes suddenly popped open. He turned around with an incredulous expression as he watched a light red-colored soul fragment slowly floating past him. This soul fragment was only the size of a small nail and sparkled like a ruby crystal. As it slowly spun around through space, it left sprinkles of red light wherever it went. Lin Ming paused. This feeling was. Back when Lin Ming and Lei Mubai had fought, he had also felt a similar aura. Netherworld Great Emperor? Ancient Devil Tome? Lin Ming hesitated. Then he stepped forwards, and a wisp of his true essence locked onto that soul fragment. As he looked at the soul fragment that was bound by true essence, Lin Ming could clearly feel that it contained a bloody energy. When Lin Ming had swallowed the shattered demon heart crystals, he had witnessed the great figure of the Netherworld Great Emperor's giant axe pointed at the sky, his feet firmly upon the ground. There had also been countless numbers of demons that surrounded him. Lin Ming's heart suddenly surged with an inexplicable desire to swallow this soul fragment. Just what would happen if he did? Lin Ming grit his teeth, and then reached out a hand to grab the red soul fragment. Shoo! As Lin Ming touched the soul fragment, it melted into a stream of light that submerged into his body. Lin Ming's strength was far more formidable than it had been in the past. But this soul fragment was also more formidable than anyone he had absorbed before. As a countless amount of information emerged within Lin Ming's mind, his spiritual sea suddenly shook, and fuzzy scenes and sounds appeared in front of him. Of these various demons he saw, there were also those that were etched upon the walls of the ancient Phoenix main hall. War, blood, battlefields. Powerhouses waved their earth-shattering weapons in the air. Countless corpses flew back, burned into nothing but countless specks of ash. The yellow sandy ground was dyed completely red. Faintly, Lin Ming could see a massive city hewn from rock. The buildings within this city were rough and looked wild, but it was filled with an uninhibited sense of power and beauty. And the residents within this city were all the demons that Lin Ming had seen before. They were all over 10 feet tall, and some were even 20 feet tall. Giant demon? Lin Ming's mind echoed with these two words. After the chaos of fragmented memories was finally organized by Lin Ming, he finally understood that these demons were really just a human-like race. Their bodies were wrapped in chains, and long horns and tusks came from their faces. They had fiery crimson hair that recklessly hung down. This was not unique to the Netherworld Great Emperor. In truth, they were a separate race, the giant demon race. So that's how it was. The Netherworld Great Emperor was not a human to begin with. When I swallowed the shattered demon heart crystal and saw him slaughter countless demons with his great axe, it's likely that the location was a gathering place of the giant demon race. And the red demon that I encountered during the last smelting trial of the divine phoenix mystic realm was also a kind of giant demon. The puzzles that had plagued Lin Ming's mind suddenly became much clearer. No wonder I was able to feel the same bloodline legacy of the Netherworld Great Emperor from Lei Mubai. I'm even able to sense the difference in this small red soul fragment. The reason is that it simply doesn't originate from the bloodline of humanity, so it's a bit more special. As Lin Ming opened his eyes, he left the magic cube space. He opened the doors and walked out. The moon was bright in the sky, it was already late at night. The night air was a bit humid. As a cold breeze wafted on his face, Lin Ming sobered up by a great deal. He rubbed his forehead and felt a deep, aching pain in his brain, as if it had slept for too long and his mind wasn't cleared yet. As Lin Ming suppressed this aching feeling, he carefully examined the memories he had acquired. Suddenly, Lin Ming was fiercely startled. This is Great Desolate Blood Halberd. Lin Ming was shocked. In the image in his mind, this weapon was 10 feet long, and the halberd shaft was as thick as an arm. This great and ominous halberd was a deep blood red all over. This supreme elder of the realm of the gods was actually the first master of the Great Desolate Blood Halberd. Lin Ming's was mind-boggled. The Great Desolate Blood Halberd had left behind endless legends. It was said that it was at least a medium-grade heavenstep treasure, or possibly even higher. This halberd had existed for 70 to 80,000 years already. Because of the vast expanse of time, it was no longer possible to find out just who the first master of the weapon was. All of the masters that followed, including even the peerless emperor powerhouses, had an insufficient destiny and would be cursed to death by this ominous halberd. This even included the Netherworld Great Emperor. Lin Ming subconsciously took out the ancient devil tome from the spatial ring. This ancient devil tome was taken from Lei Mubai. After he read it, Lin Ming began to laugh and cry at the same time. It turned out that this ancient devil tome was actually a cultivation method that the Supreme Elder who had first owned the Great Desolate Blood Halberd had created himself, just before he left for the realm of the god. Such a coincidence could only be said to be the will of the heavens. It was probably because of all these vague connections that Lin Ming was able to sense that familiar energy coming from the blood-red soul fragment. To think that one of the 10,000 powerhouses from the realm of the gods that had laid waste to the verdant feather holy lands was someone who had flown up from the Sky Spill continent. The first master of the Great Desolate Blood Halberd. 80,000 years ago, he was an emperor powerhouse of Sky Spill continent, titled the Demon Emperor. He had founded his own 6th grade sect that lasted for over 16,000 years. Demon Emperor. Anyone who dared to call themselves this was probably the top figure of the demonic path. Because the memories were incomplete, it took a long time for Lin Ming to reorganize them. There were many bits and pieces of information. He simply was at a complete loss at many of these confusing scenes. As Lin Ming slowly digested these memories, he looked through them. Within the memories of this Demon Emperor's soul fragment, most of them were memories of scenes that involved his participation in wars. There were countless scenes of slaughter and blood. This Demon Emperor is really bloodthirsty. Lin Ming sighed. Although this soul fragment was larger than the last two, there were very few memories of cultivation methods. There were a few, but even those were mostly incomplete. As Lin Ming continued to organize the memories of the soul fragment, he was suddenly startled. Millimeter? This is a halberd art. Lin Ming's heart moved. In truth, the essence behind a spear and halberd was nearly the same. Spear skills could be used with a halberd, and halberd arts could be used with a spear. What Lin Ming lacked the most now was spear skills. When he had fought a master of Golden Bell Mountain in a match, it had fully reflected a weakness of his, and that was that he lacked finesse and technique in his spear skills. If it wasn't for the blood of the true dragon that had augmented his spear powers, Lin Ming would have undoubtedly lost to Xiao Kai in a battle of spear skills. This giant demon race mostly uses long weapons. Humans mostly used swords and sabers, but the giant demon race, maybe because of their height, are more familiar with long pole-type weapons. For instance, the Netherworld Great Emperor used a long-handled great axe and the blood halberd. Lei Mubai also used a halberd. As for this demon emperor, he also used a halberd. And what was impressive was that this great desolate halberd art was one of the demon emperor's ultimate lore formulas. Not only did it contain halberd skills, but it also contained a cultivation method. Its power was simply enormous. The ancient devil tome that Lei Mubai had cultivated was only a tiny fraction of the full great desolate halberd art. What Lin Ming was apprehensive about was that cultivating the great desolate halberd art was not easy. It required one to constantly kill, sucking up the enemy's blood essence and accumulating one's own murderous intent. Killing, Lin Ming frowned. During these years that he had practiced martial arts, he hadn't killed many. As for all those that he killed, they each had reasons to die and had simply walked the road of death. When the demon emperor had practiced the great desolate halberd art, he had killed countless others in an absolute bloodthirsty frenzy, all in order to improve his own cultivation method. But Lin Ming could not do the same. He could not, and would not kill innocent people. This demon way martial arts seemed to have two different paths. There is the killing path along with the lustful path. The Netherworld Great Emperor had stepped upon both of these, but as for the demon emperor of 80,000 years ago, he had only walked the killing path. And the killing path is the only way left to me. Chapter 430 Returning to Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 430 Returning to Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 430 Returning to Divine Phoenix Island. As Sky Fortune City entered fall, the days began to be filled with a faint chill. In the 9th month, Crown Prince Yang Lin ascended to the throne. The grand ceremony continued for a total of 9 days. Before this, all of the officials that had been purged and were still living were once again restored to their former glory. They entered the palace again and again, being promoted continuously. As for officials that had followed Yang Zhen, some were demoted and some were exiled. Even though Yang Lin was a naturally kind-hearted man, after becoming emperor he would also begin to gradually show a ruthless side. In the middle of the 9th month, Lin Ming brought Qin Xingxuan back to his hometown of Green Mulberry City. Before this, Yang Lin had already sent summons to meet Lin Ming's parents. Yang Lin was clear that his life was protected and he would finally be able to ascend the throne, all because of Lin Ming. Although this was a great graciousness of Lin Ming, there was no way that Yang Lin could return the favor. What he could offer Lin Ming were common things such as authority and money. However, these things no longer held any significance to Lin Ming. However, Yang Lin was still a wise and smart character who knew the best way to do things in any situation. Since he couldn't offer Lin Ming anything he wanted, he would then give a title to Lin Ming's parents. He titled Lin Ming's father as the Duke of Lu County with a scope of land over 500 miles wide. This Lu County also included Green Mulberry City within its borders. Henceforth, Green Mulberry City was the home grounds of the Lin family. As for Lin Ming's mother, she was titled as a first-class madam. Even Lin Xiaodong was given the title of a first-class viscount. These titles were extraordinary. Whether it was a duke or a first-class madam, neither of them had official government power, but they were titles that were still only inferior to a prince or king, and were top characters among any noble circles. These titles were also hereditary. Once titled, they would not be removed unless there was a major crime that was committed. Thus, The royal palace would not easily bestow these noble titles onto others. Besides times of great war or in the founding of the nation, they would almost never be given. If one thought that they could receive this title during times of peace, then that was simply nonsense. It had to be known that the title of Viscount within Green Mulberry City would include a 30-mile manor as well as 1,000 servants. As for the several great families of Green Mulberry City, besides the Zhou family who had obtained some status because their daughter had become the empress concubine, the other family heads were not even second-rate barons. As for the commoners, the best among them could be considered the wealthy gentry of the countryside. Between the common people and the nobility there was an insurmountable gap. The nobility represented the most honored positions. Although great merchant families were large and powerful, within the minds of the common people, their social status was inferior to nobles. Thus, to Lin Ming's parents, being able to receive a title and become a duke or a madam was simply a dream come true. This was an event worthy of a grand celebration, and would also bring great honor to their ancestors. As Lin Ming saw the happy look on his parents' faces, he was deeply satisfied. He didn't think that such a common title of the mortal world would let his parents become this pleased. The last time that Lin Ming had come back, even the pills that he had given them that would let them extend their lives by 100 years hadn't caused his parents to be so happy. As Lin Ming's mother affectionately felt the imperial decree, her smile went from ear to ear. She decided that she would have a beautiful sandalwood box made and then place the imperial decree within. Later, when she passed on to the next world, she would be able to raise her head high when she saw her ancestors. Lin Ming wasn't sure whether or not to laugh or cry when he heard these ideas. As Lin Mu happily spoke, the cry of a little baby was suddenly emitted from the west wing of the residence. This baby was Lin Ming's little sister. Lin Ming had been stranded within the Divine Phoenix Mystic for nearly a year. Under Qin Zia's protection, Lin Ming's parents hadn't even heard the news of Lin Ming's death from the beginning to the end. They had lived an entire year happily in peace, and had even popped out a little sister for Lin Ming. This could all be accredited to Lin Ming's pills. This couple that had worked hard for half a lifetime suddenly felt much younger. The wrinkles on their skin vanished, and their bodies constantly improved. Now, the husband and wife were no different from anyone else in their early 30s. Lin Ming's little sister was only a few months old and was still nursing. Her name was Lin Xiaoge, and her nickname was Little Pigeon. This little girl had surprisingly large eyes and wasn't afraid of strangers. As she saw Lin Ming, she stared at him with her bright black eyes shining, intently watching him. Lin Ming was very fond of this cute baby. He took out a soul jade pendant from his spatial ring and placed it around Lin Xiaoge's neck. This little baby had arrived right on time. Lin Ming was worried that his parents would be lonely after he left, but now that Little Pigeon was here, that wouldn't be the case. Perhaps in the future there might also be another little brother or sister, and they would also be able to inherit the family title. As for Little Pigeon, she might marry into the royal palace and become an empress in the future. At that time, his parents should no longer have any regrets. Lin Ming hadn't been planning on telling his parents what had happened this year, but after the couple had been home for a while, they learned what happened. After Lin Mu heard this news, she was frightened out of her mind. Especially after she had heard that Lin Ming was soon leaving Sky Fortune Kingdom again, and this time it would be a very long time before he returned. Lin Mu's originally happy mood fell, and she didn't speak for an entire day. She didn't know what Lin Ming's experiences were when he went out, but what she knew was that it would undoubtedly be dangerous. Not just that, but she wouldn't be able to see her son for several years. Lin Mu wasn't happy at all. The only one who could make Lin Mu smile was Qin Xingxuan. Although Lin Ming was only friends with Qin Xingxuan, in Lin Mu's opinion, since Lin Ming had brought her back to his home, that was the same as bringing a woman back to meet the in-laws. No matter how Lin Mu looked at it, she was very satisfied with this future wife. Qin Xingxuan had a good background. She was intelligent, kind, well-mannered, and also very beautiful. Lin Mu made several insinuations, asking many times when Lin Ming would marry and produce some grandchildren that she could hold. Lin Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She might as well wait for Little Pigeon to grow up and have some children herself. A martial artist traveled throughout the world and had no fixed home. It was simply impossible for them to look after their own child. This was also the reason why most martial artists had children at a very late stage in their life. Normally only when they had reached the end of their potential and stabilized at whatever boundary they were at would they consider having children. Normally, a revolving core Supreme Elder wouldn't have children until they were at least 100 years old. Lin Ming lived at home quietly for half a month. During this time, he didn't cultivate much. Most of his time was spent accompanying his parents or teasing the little pigeon. It was only late at night that Lin Ming would meditate over the great desolate halberd art left from the Demon Emperor. The more he pondered it, the more incomparably profound he discovered this cultivation method was, and he also encountered many difficulties. Finally, the day to depart arrived. Lin Ming had to return to Divine Phoenix Island, and Qin Xingxuan would follow him there. As for his bonds with the 7 profound valleys, they could already be considered finished. Next day, early morning. The fall wind blew, the leaves were withered and yellow, and flocks of birds flew through the bright blue sky to the south. Lin Ming stood under the massive wings of Fire Shine, all of his clothes flapping in the breeze blown by the flames. Behind Lin Ming, Lin Mu covered her mouth, unable to help the tears streaming down her cheeks. Lin Fu also sighed. He was proud to have a son like this, but to have a son like this also meant that his son was destined to not stay by their side. Otherwise, he would never be able to fly high. Father, mother, take care. Lin Ming knelt down and bowed his head to the ground 3 times. Then he jumped onto Fireshine's back. Fireshine opened its massive wings and shot up into the sky with Lin Ming and Qin Xingxuan on board. The vermilion bird soared into the heavens. The wind howled, and flames dyed the skies red. Those that walked the road of martial arts were doomed to be alone. They lived long lives, and it was impossible for them to spend their years together with their family. This was also the reason why many supreme elders, such as the sorcerer of the southern wilderness, would return to their homeland after many years and finish the causal bonds that they held with the world they once knew. Lin Ming, are we going straight to Divine Phoenix Island? Qin Xingxuan asked from atop the vermilion bird. Yes, we're going straight to Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 431 No Choice Left. Chapter 431 No Choice Left. Chapter 431 No Choice Left. Divine Phoenix Island, Back Mountains, Vermilion Bird Palace. Divine Phoenix Island's 3rd elder, Mu Yenjue, strode out of the Vermilion Bird Palace, scowling. 3rd elder. A pair of maids outside of the Vermilion Bird Palace bowed to Mu Yenjue. Mu Yenjue only gave a light humph, not bothering to reply to them. As he stepped 100 feet away from the entrance of the main hall, Mu Yenjue waved his sleeves and then flew away. Although there were no rules stating that one could not fly at the Vermilion Bird Palace's front square, Vermilion Bird Palace was still the palace of Mu Yuhuang, and also where the supreme power of the Vermilion Bird faction lay. A normal person would only fly outside of the square and then walk in, but Mu Yenjue no longer bothered to pay attention to any manners or rules. The conversation he had with Mu Yuhuang just a while ago had left him very unhappy. The Saintess engagement ceremony that he had proposed had been pushed back by Mu Yuhuang. She had found some random excuse to turn it down, and now it was extended indefinitely. Who? A sound transmission talisman lit in front of Mu Yenjue. The one who had contacted him was Great Elder Mu Qihua. Mu Yenjue frowned. His relationship with the Great Elder was average. There were many complex power struggles within the intricate internal stage of Divine Phoenix Island. Mu Yenjue was the 3rd elder, and represented a faction. As for Mu Qihua, he also represented another faction. Between these 2 great factions, there were many places in which they naturally conflicted. This had led to the relationship between Mu Yenjue and Mu Qihua being discordant. This was unavoidable. Mu Yenjue hesitated and then flew to the Fire Soul Palace where the Great Elder was waiting. Haha, brother Yenjue, it's been a while since we met each other like this. How have you been? Outside of Fire Soul Palace, Mu Qihua was wearing a long red robe as he waited there with a smile on his face. I thank brother Qihua for your concern. I'm fine. Mu Yenjue lightly landed and then cupped his hands together in greetings. Fine. What fine? I'm afraid you're not fine at all, the great elder said with a faint smile. Mu Yenjue frowned, not refuting anything. Brother Yenjue, I know that you've worked very hard for Qingshu's wedding. But if I could speak frankly, Brother Yenjue should just forget about this. It seems that Mu Yuhuang has already decided to have Mu Qianyu marry Lin Ming. Not only that, but looking at how close Mu Qianyu and Lin Ming are, they are both likely willing to agree to this marriage. It seems that Qingshu will have to make other plans in the future. Mu Chihua's words were harsh. Mu Yenjue was very sullen. He already knew this, but he was still having trouble accepting this truth. Mu Chihua smiled and said, Brother Yenjue is a sensible man. Before, there really were some unpleasant problems between us, but in the end, we are both surnamed Mu. Within the last 3,000 years of Divine Phoenix Island, there have been many disciples with different last names that have joined, but in the end they aren't elders with the same surname. I'm afraid that in the future, Lin Ming will continue to progress and will become an elder. Lin Ming's status is becoming more and more important. In the future, if he marries Mu Qianyu, he might even become the island master of Divine Phoenix Island. Mu Yenjue said, in these last 3,000 years, there has never been someone whose last name was not Mu who became the island master. This is basically no different from handing Divine Phoenix Island to others. The Council of Elders would never agree to this. Who could guarantee that an outsider wouldn't be harboring evil intentions? Divine Phoenix Island was a sect, but in truth they took bloodline heritage very importantly. Most of those on the island had the last name Mu, and it was very similar to a family clan. A family clan would never hand over the position of family head to an outsider. Therefore, Divine Phoenix Island's elders would also not accept someone with a different last name becoming the island master. That's not necessarily true. Mu Fengxian very much favors this Lin Ming, and Mu Yuhuang also places a great deal of faith in him too. Not only that, but Lin Ming's potential is simply too terrifying. Brother Yenjue may not know, but this time Lin Ming forced his way into the 7 Profound Valleys Acacia faction and fought 7 or 8 elders of the Acacia faction by himself. He even defeated the extreme Xiantian Acacia faction sovereign. What? Mu Yenjue's complexion immediately changed. You say that the late Hutian realm Lin Ming defeated an extreme Xiantian master. Yes. This is a level of talent that only a future emperor powerhouse will have. Thus, that is why I said that Lin Ming would become the island master of Divine Phoenix Island in the future. Even controlling all of Divine Phoenix Island is not impossible. At that time, we really won't have anywhere to go. Mu Yenjue's complexion was extremely ugly. He grit his teeth. If that's the case, then this old man has nothing to say. Lin Ming's rise is simply unstoppable. I will try to advise Qingshu to give up this engagement and focus on cultivating. If his talent is inferior to others, then he can do nothing but accept this fate. Although in the future I will be under the control of others and my influence will slowly decline, I will still be able to survive. It is far better than being destroyed. I urge Brother Chihua to also not bother with Lin Ming. Such a character will become extremely terrifying once they grow up in the future. If anyone offends him, their deaths later will be extremely miserable. Mu Chihua disdainfully said, Brother Yenjue, why do you try to protect yourself? We have already offended him. Humph, it is only Brother Chihua that has offended him. Brother Chihua is like water and fire with Island Master Yu Huang. I, Mu Yenjue, do not have the courage to struggle for authority with others. I'm fine with being subject to others. Brother Chihua should best not try to pull me down too. Mu Chihua suddenly sneered, Brother Yenjue is too naive. Does Brother Yenjue know why Lin Ming killed his way into the 7 Profound Valleys Acacia faction? Mu Yenjue paused. He gave a light humph and then didn't reply. He didn't know the circumstances between Lin Ming and Ouyang Boyan. To Divine Phoenix Island, anything like these minor matters that happened within Sky Fortune Kingdom were no different than little ants fighting. It was not enough to arouse the interest of Divine Phoenix Island, not to mention that Divine Phoenix Island was already busy with the chaos caused by the war they were in. Mu Chihua laughed and said, several months ago, news of Lin Ming's death had been passed on to the 7 Profound territory. One of Lin Ming's enemies wanted to use this chance to take some revenge, and decided to retaliate against the Lin family and also forced a little girl that Lin Ming is extremely close to into a dead end. The ones who did this were the Seven Profound Valleys Acacia faction. This was the reason that Lin Ming killed his way into the Acacia faction. In fact, all of the people that he killed were elders of the Acacia faction, Xiantian masters. And so what? Hehe, it seems that Brother Yanjue really doesn't know. Brother Yanjue, think for a bit. If Lin Ming's family and friends were forced to the brink of death, why would they not ask for help from Divine Phoenix Island? After all, they know that Lin Ming and Mu Qianyu are friends. However, what is unfortunate is that Mu Qianyu was together with your grandson Mu Qingshu. Then, for some unknown reason, your grandson decided to burn away the letter that was sent to Mu Qianyu. In fact, he burned away multiple letters, not giving any of them to Mu Qianyu. Afterwards, this almost caused that girl who has an intimate relation with Lin Ming to die on the battlefield. As Mu Qihua slowly spoke, Mu Yanjue's expression didn't change at all. Mu Qihua wouldn't lie about something like this, and there was a very high chance this was true. Mu Qihua was aware of what sort of personality Mu Qingshu had, and it was likely that he would do something like this. Mu Yanjue's eyebrows rose. He flared at the Great Elder, and then coldly said, "You have someone spying on my arrangements." If this Great Elder hadn't hidden some spy within his own people, then he would never know such trivial matters. Haha, Brother Yanjue shouldn't speak so harshly. It's best to spend this time to think about how to deal with Lin Ming's anger. This Lin Ming is a person who will definitely take vengeance on any grudges he has. One just needs to look at the miserable state of the Acacia faction to find out. Once Lin Ming returns to Divine Phoenix Island, he will inevitably investigate this matter and try to trace back clues. In the past, your grandson thought that Lin Ming had died, so he was very casual in his actions and wasn't clean in erasing his traces. If Lin Ming investigates this matter, it won't be difficult to find out who it was. With Lin Ming's current ability, he won't be able to harm Qingshu. But in the future, after Lin Ming reaches the revolving core realm, will Brother Yanjue still be able to protect Qingshu? At that time, perhaps Qingshu. As Mu Qihua spoke, he began to shake his head. Mu Yanjue grimaced. Mu Qingshu was his bloodline's most outstanding character. If there weren't any accidents, he would become an elder in the future and take over his position. The position of an elder was extremely important. If a faction didn't have an elder, they would have no power within the upper echelons of the sect. The result was that they would slowly wither away, and finally disappear. If this was a normal conflict, Mu Yanjue would apologize. But in this matter, even if it were Mu Yanjue who had committed it, Lin Ming still might not forget it. Mu Yanjue's expression changed several times. Finally, he asked with a true essence sound transmission, "Does Brother Qihua have a plan?" In Mu Yanjue's opinion, with Lin Ming's current talent and strength, in addition to Mu Fengxian's support, it was impossible to pose a threat to Lin Ming even if he joined with Mu Qihua. Brother Yanjue, there is no need to worry. There is always a way. Brother Yanjue, how about we return to my Fire Soul Palace and then slowly discuss this matter? Mu Yanjue nodded. He simply had no choice left. On an island 1,000 miles away from Divine Phoenix Island, the reef was rugged and the waves surged against the beach. A squad of Divine Phoenix Island disciples were carrying out a routine patrol. Just before noon, the Xiantian leader of this squad suddenly saw a bright flame in the distant skies. His eyesight was exceptional, so he was the first one to see that it was a vermilion bird. And also a fully grown vermilion bird. Divine Phoenix Island only had a few grown vermilion birds. Those that could ride a vermilion bird out to travel were most likely elders. The disciple immediately lit a sound-transmitting talisman. In the center of a small island, in an elegant small building, Mu Qianyu was watering flowers. These past days, Mu Qianyu had been in a very good mood. When she had spare time, she would plant some flowers and plants. Mu Qingshu was standing in the courtyard, silently looking at Mu Qianyu watering flowers. These days, Mu Qianyu's attitude towards him was much better than before. But this sudden change in attitude did not make Mu Qingshu happy. Since Mu Qingshu had learned that Lin Ming was still alive, he had a very poor complexion. It wasn't that Lin Ming was still alive, but because his cultivation had already reached the late Hutian realm. A 17-year-old with a late Hutian realm cultivation had already surpassed Mu Qianyu when she was at this age. This caused Mu Qingshu to feel a deep sense of crisis. If this speed continued, then perhaps in a few years, Lin Ming's strength would outstrip his own. When that time came, he would not have the slightest advantage. These next few years were his last chance. Mu Qingshu already has his grandfather try to make final effort. Although the chances weren't great, he still had a glimmer of hope. That was because he had an enormous advantage over Lin Ming, and that was that his last name was Mu. At this moment, a flame suddenly shone in front of Mu Qingshu. Millimeter. Some people are coming here on a vermilion bird. Chapter 432 I'll compensate. Chapter 432 I'll compensate. Chapter 432 I'll compensate. During these chaotic times of war, those that rode a vermilion bird to travel were most likely elders. Could there possibly be news from grandfather's side? As Mu Qingshu thought of this, he was conflicted. The Council of Elders within Divine Phoenix Island was mainly composed of conservative old hypocrites. It wasn't necessarily true that they would allow Lin Ming to become a leader of power in the future, so the situation wasn't hopeless for him. As Mu Qingshu was lost in his thoughts, he heard the high-pitched phoenix cry of the vermilion bird. The vermilion bird was extremely fast. Just a few breaths of time after Mu Qingshu had received the sound-transmitting talisman, it had already flown over the island's skies. Mu Qianyu was momentarily startled. She lay down the flower pot in her hands and looked towards the skies. Who? The vermilion bird landed on the ground, setting off a wild wind that blew away the surrounding greenery. There was a man and a woman standing on top of the vermilion bird. The young man was a handsome youth. As he smiled, his eyes were soft, but they contained an inexplicably fierce will. The girl that stood behind him was delicate, but her attitude was a bit cautious. They were Lin Ming and Qin Xingxuan. Lin Ming didn't return straight to Divine Phoenix Island. Instead, as he was crossing a South Sea transmission array, he asked a disciple who was stationed there where Mu Qianyu was and came to look for her first. Lin Ming had an exceptionally warm feeling towards Mu Qianyu. In a way, it could be said that Lin Ming was willing to contribute to Divine Phoenix Island mostly because of Mu Qianyu. When Lin Ming had first left the Divine Phoenix mystic realm, if it wasn't because he was frantically trying to rescue Qin Xingxuan, he would have looked for Mu Qianyu first. As Mu Qingshu saw Lin Ming appear, the smile on his face instantly froze. Lin Ming. It was actually him. As Mu Qingshu saw Lin Ming's smiling face, he felt like he had eaten a fly. For now, he had to consider protocol. He could only hide the disgust and loathing he felt in his heart, and keep on a fairly calm expression. Lin Ming. Mu Qianyu lightly breathed out. She looked as she usually did, but it was hard to conceal the joy shining in her eyes. Senior apprentice Sister Mu. Lin Ming hopped off the back of the vermilion bird. Qin Xingxuan also followed him, carefully jumping off Fire Shine and then politely standing behind him. She was still a bit stiff and unsure. She had already heard that Lin Ming and Mu Qianyu were very close. As Qin Xingxuan came down, Mu Qianyu's vision also fell onto her. After several breaths of time, she began to see Qin Xingxuan squirm a bit, like a cat on a hot floor. At this moment, Mu Qianyu faintly smiled and said, "Is this Miss Qin? I've just recently heard of Miss Qin's problems. Since the Qin family was in distress, that is also an oversight on my part. I'm really glad that Miss Qin is safe and sound. Your Highness Saintess is too kind." Qin Xingxuan respectfully bowed. This was the first time that she had seen Mu Qianyu. She had already heard that the Saintess of Divine Phoenix Island was a divine fairy maiden of the world. When Qin Xingxuan saw her today, there was inevitably a small part of her self-esteem that felt inferior. No matter how she saw it, in terms of status, strength, or anything else, she was simply unable to compare with Mu Qianyu. This caused Qin Xingxuan's aura to weaken by several degrees. Lin Ming turned his eyes to Mu Qingshu. "I am Mu Qingshu. I've heard junior apprentice brother Lin's great name already. I'm glad to meet you. Mu Qingshu cupped his fists together, keeping a neutral tone. So it's senior apprentice brother Qingshu. Lin Ming politely greeted him in return. But at this time, a true essence sound transmission sounded in Lin Ming's ear. Be careful of Mu Qingshu. Because of some reasons, he might harbor some hostility towards you. Millimeter? Have I done something to offend him? Lin Ming asked, slightly startled. This, Mu Qianyu didn't know what to say, so she vaguely said, just be careful. Got it. Lin Ming marked this down. Junior apprentice brother Lin, since you've been within the divine phoenix mystic realm for such a long time, you must have gotten some great lucky chance, right? Mu Qingshu indifferently asked. Millimeter, I found some lucky chances, that's why I was stranded in there for so long and caused everyone to worry. Worry? Mu Qingshu sneered in his heart. What I worry about is how you didn't die. As Mu Qingshu thought this, he turned away. He feared that if he kept facing Lin Ming, he wouldn't be able to continue suppressing the hatred he felt in his heart. Mu Qianyu heard Lin Ming's words and said, it's been a full 10 months, it's truly been a long time. Fortunately, you still managed to come out in time, otherwise there would have been a tragedy. As Mu Qianyu spoke, her eyes turned to Qin Xingxuan. Miss Qin, the truth is, if the Qin family had met with any troubles, you could have sent a letter to me. If I knew that any of this was happening, I would have immediately come to help in any way I could have. Miss Qin, there is no need to be a stranger. Millimeter, Qin Xingxuan frowned. She naturally knew of the letters that Qin Zia had sent to Mu Qianyu. As she listened to Mu Qianyu's tone of voice, she didn't know what to take from it. Looking at her sincere and honest expression, it didn't seem like she was lying. Qin Xingxuan bit her lips and wasn't sure if she would say anything. At this time, Lin Ming said, Miss Mu, when the Qin family was in dire trouble, my elder wrote 2 letters to Miss Mu. But it seems as if these letters disappeared somewhere, and there was never a response. At these words, Mu Qingshu's eyebrows jumped. He felt weak at heart, but he continued to maintain his tranquil expression, casually standing by the side. Mu Qianyu frowned. You've written 2 letters and they disappeared. Yes. They might have been lost in the chaos of war. Mu Qianyu thoughtfully said, not even glancing at Mu Qingshu from the corner of her eyes. Is that really so? Lin Ming didn't really believe Mu Qianyu's assumption. The truth was that transmission arrays that passed on letters weren't really affected by the conflict of war. Not just that, but for 2 letters to be completely lost seemed a bit unjustified. It should be like that. As Mu Qianyu spoke, she also sent Lin Ming a true essence sound transmission. I'll investigate this matter. Junior apprentice brother Lin shouldn't worry. I will give junior apprentice brother Lin a full account of what happened. Lin Ming was stunned. There could only be one reason that Mu Qianyu had spoken to him with a true essence sound transmission, and that was to guard against a person. That person could only be Mu Qingshu. Lin Ming was doubtful. I've offended Mu Qingshu? This, Mu Qianyu was speechless. How could she possibly speak of what happened? Should she tell Lin Ming that the elders wanted her to marry Mu Qingshu, and that was why Mu Qingshu's envy was aroused? And that even later, this engagement was postponed? Wasn't that implying that Honorable Master Yu Huang was trying to facilitate a marriage between her and Lin Ming? As Mu Qianyu thought of marriage, her heart was a mess. Her personality deviated towards being independent and free. She did not desire the emotions that lay between men and women, and only wished to pursue the peak of martial artists. As for what she felt towards Lin Ming, even Mu Qianyu wasn't clear of it. Between her and Lin Ming, from the curiosity she felt towards him that became admiration, the 2 of them should have become close friends and confidants. However, because of those ambiguous experiences within Thundercrash Mountain, a great deal of confusion had been mixed in with these feelings. Mu Qianyu had followed Mu Yu Huang ever since she was a little child. From then until now, she had very little contact with men, much less having a man touch her body. Mu Qianyu also couldn't help but acknowledge that when she had learnt of Lin Ming's death, she was extremely heartbroken, as if she had lost her soul and everything was gone. Thinking of this, Mu Qianyu unconsciously glanced at Qin Xingxuan. She looked as if she wanted to say something, but eventually didn't speak at all. As for Lin Ming, ever since he learned that someone may have sabotaged the sent letters, his expression had sank. Regardless of who it was, once he learnt of it, he would never let this matter go. Lin Ming, let's go back to Divine Phoenix Island together. Honorable Master is probably impatient. Millimeter, all right. Divine Phoenix Island, Vermilion Bird Palace. The front door of the Elders' meeting hall was crafted by 1,000-year parasol tree wood. Within the meeting hall there was a 30-foot-long table with 10 parasol tree chairs. 9-year flame flowers filled the room. These flowers blossomed after 9 years, and after blossoming, they were able to absorb fire origin energy. They were extremely rare fire attribute spiritual plants. These flowers were very beautiful and were mainly used for decoration around the rooms in Divine Phoenix Island. Mu Yu Huang sat at the seat of honor, and Mu Qianyu sat beside her. There was also 7 or 8 individuals gathered in the surrounding wooden chairs. Of these 7 or 8 people, Lin Ming had only seen one before, and that was revered Master Tianguang, Mu Tianguang. Beside Mu Tianguang was an old woman dressed in red. Her 2 eyebrows were over a foot long, and all her hair was red. She looked somewhat similar to ancestor Kai Yang. Lin Ming's soul force was much more formidable now than it used to be, so he was able to faintly feel the level of her cultivation. This old woman was at the middle revolving core realm. Within Divine Phoenix Island, most of the elders were at the early revolving core realm. Someone at the middle revolving core realm was considered quite strong. As the old woman saw Lin Ming look at her, she smiled and nodded. Lin Ming smiled back in return. During this time in front of the Council of Elders, Lin Ming had suppressed his own energy as much as possible in order to show his respect and humbleness. Besides this long eyebrow old woman, most of the others here were also women. As they looked at Lin Ming, their expressions varied. Some appeared appreciative, and some weakly smiled. There were also a few that completely ignored Lin Ming, not bothering to acknowledge him at all. The Council of Elders was the highest authority center within Divine Phoenix Island. All of these elders were truly powerful characters within Divine Phoenix Island. As long as any 4 or 5 of them joined together, that was enough to place sufficient pressure onto Mu Yu Huang. Mu Tianguang was actually extremely friendly to Lin Ming. After he sat down, he began to look of Lin Ming. As he sensed the profound true essence fluctuations within Lin Ming's body, he was very surprised. It was simply hard to imagine that these were the true essence fluctuations that could come from a Hutian realm martial artist. However, as he looked over Lin Ming's dantian, he was able to see that the true essence hadn't yet formed a cyclone there and was still scattered. Evidently, he still hadn't set foot into the Xiantian realm. Lin Ming, during your time within Divine Phoenix Island you must have greatly benefited. Mu Tianguang smiled as he spoke. Millimeter, disciple's luck has been good, and I've managed to obtain some lucky chances. That's also why I was stranded there for so long. Good. If you can grow up faster, then that will be another great war force added to our Divine Phoenix Island. Mu Tianguang chuckled. Of course, he was only speaking thoughtlessly. He didn't really believe that Lin Ming would be able to play any significant role in the war between Divine Phoenix Island and the South Sea Demon region. In a fight of this level, even an early revolving core powerhouse was limited in what they were able to accomplish. As for Lin Ming, his cultivation was far below that. As the elders began to arrive one after another, with the Vermilion Bird faction and the Blue Luan faction added together, there were around 20 elders in this Divine Phoenix Island Council in total. At this moment, the meeting hall door swung open, and a tall, vigorous-looking old man walked in. Behind this old man, there was a very diminutive-looking old man with calm eyes who was walking in using a 10,000-year-old parasol tree cane. These two were Divine Phoenix Island's Vermilion Bird faction Great Elder Mu Chihua as well as Third Elder Mu Yanzhua. Mu Chihua swept his eyes over everyone present. He finally glanced at Lin Ming, and then smiled a bit, before heading straight to his seat. Mu Yu Huang coldly looked at these 2 old men that sat in their seats and then calmly said, "During this conference of elders, there are 3 matters that will be discussed. First, there is the announcement of a new appointment. Second is the war plan against the South Sea Demon region that will occur next month. And third is that Lin Ming will narrate his experiences within the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm. The Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm was vital to the existence of Divine Phoenix Island. However, Divine Phoenix Island only had an extremely limited understanding of just what the Divine Phoenix Mystic was. Every time a disciple returned from the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm, they would reiterate their experiences for future reference and information. This time, Lin Ming had been stranded within the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm for almost an entire year. Naturally, the information of what he had experienced inside was extremely significant. It would allow Divine Phoenix Island to deepen their insight into the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm. Therefore Mu Yu Huang had especially convened the Council of Elders in order to allow Lin Ming to narrate his experiences. Of course, this meeting of elders also had another meaning behind it, and that was to allow the Council of Elders to affirm Lin Ming's value. First, I will speak of the new appointment. I propose that Lin Ming be appointed as the new Vermilion Bird Envoy. I wonder what everyone thinks about this. Divine Phoenix Island's Vermilion Bird Envoy was usually aimed at Xiantian disciples. There were extremely few cases in which Hutian disciples were appointed. The appointment of a Vermilion Bird Envoy meant that the disciple was a future candidate for an elder. If one became a Vermilion Bird Envoy, not only would they have true authority, but they would also enjoy rich resources. Since Mu Yu Huang said these words, that was equal to appointing Lin Ming as an elder ahead of time. Regarding this matter, nearly half of the elders reacted calmly. This was already within their calculations. Everyone could see just how much Mu Yu Huang valued Lin Ming. However, there was a section of elders that frowned. If Lin Ming became an elder with real power that didn't share their last name, then that was similar to a foreign official serving at one's court. It normally wouldn't mean too much, but now with how much Mu Yu Huang and Mu Fengxian valued Lin Ming, along with his amazing talent, it wouldn't be as simple as just being an elder with a different surname. Divine Phoenix Island was a sect that was very similar to a family clan. Most of the elders shared the last name Mu, and it was very difficult for those with a different last name to become an elder with true power and authority. 1,000 years ago, there was an elder who appeared that was not from the Mu family. He had betrayed Divine Phoenix Island, causing them to suffer massive losses. Divine Phoenix Island had never forgotten this. With Lin Ming's talent, in the future his authority would only grow. This was equal to handing over the entire Divine Phoenix Island to Lin Ming. It was difficult to say just what Lin Ming's character was. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. After several breaths of time, the great elder slowly stood up and said, "This old man does not have an opinion on the sect master's decision to appoint Lin Ming as the Vermilion Bird Envoy. However, this old man only wishes to ask Lin Ming some questions about a matter." Mu Yu Huang's expression was cold. She had a very poor relationship with Mu Qihua. "What matter?" The great elder stood up and smiled as he looked at Lin Ming. He slowly said, "According to what this old man knows, when you were stranded within the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm and news of your death spread, there was an enemy of yours who wished to take revenge and retaliate against your family and friends, and even forced a girl that you are very intimate with into a hopeless situation where she would die. When you broke through the Divine Phoenix Mystic Realm, you hurried to rescue this girl. This girl's life was near its end, and she was about to die. Thus, you took 10 drops of Vermilion Bird Blood Essence as a price in order to revive this girl's blood essence and revive her. This girl is a medium 6th grade talent, and her cultivation is at the pulse condensation period. Besides her appearance being simple and beautiful, she has no other strong points. Also, she has no relations to my Divine Phoenix Island. I wonder if anyone knows of this matter." The great elder's words were extremely vicious. Besides her appearance being simple and beautiful, she has no other strong points. That was simply saying that Lin Ming drooled and lusted over Qin Xingxuan's beauty, and that was the reason that he took out 10 drops of Vermilion Bird Blood Essence to save her. With just these few words, the expression of all the elders present changed. Their eyes all turned to closely look at Lin Ming. For a time, the vision of all these revolving core masters was completely concentrated on a single person. The pressure could be imagined. Even Mu Yu Huang's willowy eyebrows were pinched together. If this was true, then this would really lead to massive outrage. Vermilion bird blood essence was beyond precious. Just 1 or 2 drops of this blood essence was able to create a revolving core supreme elder. Divine Phoenix Island had countless disciples and many lower-level elders that dreamed of being able to obtain just a single drop of vermilion bird blood essence so that they could cultivate the core parts of the vermilion bird forbidden divine chronicle. However, there was a limited supply of vermilion bird blood essence. Mu Yu Huang had defied the pressure of everyone and given Lin Ming all the vermilion bird blood essence. This had already caused dissatisfaction among many elders. Yet Lin Ming had wasted away 10 drops of this vermilion bird blood essence in a single go. Because of the deep and private love between a man and a woman, Lin Ming had rescued this girl's life with this high price. This would inevitably cause anger among many elders, and touch upon their point of rage. Even Mu Yu Huang, who favored Lin Ming to the extreme, was disgruntled by this act. Everyone waited for Lin Ming's reply. At this time, the atmosphere was filled with a terrifying silence, as if the air itself was condensed into essence. All of the elders, including the long-eyebrowed old woman who had been friendly, were currently glowering at Lin Ming. Only the great elder was still faintly smiling as he smirked, calmly looking at Lin Ming. Against such an enormous pressure, Lin Ming was still as calm as before. He looked at everyone present, and then after several breaths of time, he deeply said, "Everything that the great elder said is true." With just these words, all of the elders present were thrown into a boiling rage. Several elders that were already skeptical of Lin Ming's character immediately stood up. "Lin Ming, you've got guts. Who gave you this authority? For just your own affairs you wasted away 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence. To trade the life of some young girl for 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence. Lin Ming, you have really opened this old woman's eyes. If you used 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence to trade for a girl's life, then another day, after you become a truly powerful elder of Divine Phoenix Island, won't you even give away the entire Divine Phoenix Island as a gift to some demonic sect?" As this old woman knows, the current spiritual leader of the South Sea Demon region is an extremely beautiful woman. The long eyebrow woman shook her head as she looked at Lin Ming with disappointment. "How great of you. As long as he had 2 drops of vermilion bird blood essence, this old woman's grandson would be able to practice the core sections of the vermilion bird forbidden divine chronicle. He diligently practices, is not bitter, and yet he still cannot obtain any, unlike you. You actually used 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence to rescue a piece of trash." The old woman's voice was very shrill, and her words were sharp and cruel. In the eyes of these elders, a 6th-grade talent that didn't have the vermilion bird bloodline still couldn't be considered trash, but even if several hundred of these people were added together, they would still be unworthy of a single drop of vermilion bird blood essence. To even use half a drop on her was a waste. Of all the elders present, their words were all one-sided scolding. Mu Qianyu sighed. She was the only one here that understood Lin Ming. It could only be said that Lin Ming was swayed too much by his emotions and feelings of righteousness. However, what he did was hard to explain. Lin Ming was willing to take the criticism of all these elders in his stride. That was, until someone labeled Qin Xingxuan as a piece of trash. Then, Lin Ming's eyebrows rose up in anger. He coldly said, "I, Lin Ming, will compensate for these 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence." "Compensate? Ha ha ha." The great elder savagely smiled. This old man has really heard the funniest joke. 10 drops of vermilion bird blood essence is equal to 10 revolving core masters. Just what do you have to compensate? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.